Chapter 21 Sword Intent Seed. Moo! The mutated silver-striped snake demon suddenly opened its eyes, and from its emerald green eyes, two beams shot out, as tangible as real light, tearing through the air as they struck. What's happening? How did this silver-striped snake demon suddenly grow so much stronger? Its aura, my god. This must be the presence of a seventh-order demon beast. It's clearly injured, so how did its strength surge again? The strange transformation of the silver-striped snake demon caused Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan to be utterly shocked. They had never heard of such a change happening to a silver-striped snake demon before. A sixth-order pinnacle demon beast already made them hard-pressed to resist. Advancing to the seventh order, it could easily kill them with little effort. Yi-chan, what should we do? Lin Jing, who was pulled back by Yi-chan to dodge, looked at the bizarrely transforming silver-striped snake demon with shock filling her beautiful eyes, completely unexpecting such a sudden upheaval. This silver-striped snake demon seems to contain a special power within its body, distinct from its original strength, Yi-chan said solemnly, watching the silver-striped snake demon still adapting to its newly transformed body. After cultivating the meridian refining art from the primordial star scripture, his perception of the surrounding environment had greatly increased. Although the mutation of the silver-striped snake demon shocked him, he still detected something special about the creature. Sword power. Whether it was the sword-like, yet not a sword pattern between its eyes or the energy it expelled, it all gave him the impression of a power unique to sword cultivators. This snake demon living in Mirror Lake actually exuded a sense of power akin to that of human sword cultivators, which was indeed very strange. Another kind of power? Lin Jing looked at the powerfully surging silver-striped snake demon but could not sense the other special power Yi-chan mentioned. All she felt was that the current silver-striped snake demon was somewhat frightening and intimidating. Boom! While the two were briefly conversing, the silver-striped snake demon seemed to have adapted to its suddenly augmented body. Its pair of emerald green giant eyes directly targeted Yi-chan and Lin Jing, who had wounded it. Then, the silver-striped snake demon, with its massive tail, sprung fiercely, propelling its entire body like an arrow toward Yi-chan and Lin Jing. Dodge its sharp edge first. The instant the silver-striped snake demon lunged, Yi-chan called out calmly to Lin Jing, and they moved in a flash, swiftly dodging the explosive lash of the silver-striped snake demon. Roar! The silver-striped snake demon, having increased in strength dramatically, was not willing to let go of the two who had injured it. It let out a loud roar, and its 20-meter-long massive body, surprisingly agile, pursued Yi-chan and Lin Jing who were evading. During the pursuit, the silver-striped snake demon's gaping mouth suddenly opened wide, and a flurry of sword blade-like true chi storms swept out. Yi-chan pushed the yellow-class mid-tier movement technique, startling goose steps, to its limit, narrowly avoiding the sky full of sword blades. Lin Jing also performed a set of shocking cloud body skills to dodge, preventing the sword blade-like true chi storms from harming them. Instead, the storm hit a thick tree in the distance, severing it cleanly in two. Boom! 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 Trees collapsed, kicking up dust and debris. Along with the surging violent true chi, the surrounding area was plunged into chaos. Roar! After half a day of chasing and Yi-chan and Lin Jing's agile dodging of every attack, the silver-striped snake demon's ghostly fire-like eyes suddenly turned back and focused on Zhou Mo and the others, who were scared stiff. Quick, hide! Just as Yi-chen's warning reached their ears, the three of them saw the gargantuan body charging at them, hastily mobilized their movement technique to dodge but were still viciously struck and sent flying by the silver-striped snake demon. Spurting blood, the three of them were sent crashing into and breaking several large trees. Had it not been for Yi-chen's warning, which allowed them to hurriedly defend themselves with true chi, the impact could have killed them on the spot. Even so, all three were seriously injured by the collision, coughing up blood and quickly weakening. After just one strike had inflicted serious injuries on the three, the silver-striped snake demon leaped again, preparing to strike once more to finish them off completely. No! Zhou Mo and the others, sensing the movements of the silver-striped snake demon, had their eyes shrink in terror and felt a chill running down their spines, a sense of impending death enveloping their entire being. It was at that moment they saw a figure streak across the void, landing in front of them, directly in front of the silver-striped snake demon.
Yi-Chen.
It was Yi-Chun who had rushed over at this critical moment. Yi-Chun. Lin Jing, witnessing this scene, had her eyes almost reddening in urgency. She knew Yi-Chun wanted to save Zhou Mo and the others, but how could he, with merely the 5th layer of true qi, stand up against the now immensely powerful silver-striped snake demon? She stomped her foot and with a movement of her body, she too flew to Yi-Chen's side. Even as the hand holding the snow-white soft sword trembled, she still chose not to flee but instead decided to face the terrifying silver-striped snake demon alongside Yi-Chun. Seeing Lin Jing's actions, warmth filled Yi-Chen's heart, but soon his gaze fixed firmly on the silver-striped snake demon. "Sister Lin Jing, take care of them. Leave this snake demon to me." Clang. The fine steel sword in Yi-Chen's hand was drawn, pointing at the silver-striped snake demon. "No, if we are to fight, let's fight together. I can't let you take the risk alone," Lin Jing said in panic. Earlier, the two of them had barely managed to suppress the peak true qi 6th level snake demon. Now that the snake demon's power had drastically increased, how could Yi-Chun possibly stand against it alone? "Believe in me. The power this snake demon now possesses is not its true strength. This force has subtly also given me some enhancement." Yi-Chen's incredibly calm voice momentarily stunned Lin Jing, whose mind was in total disarray. It would take too long to explain everything. In reality, from the moment Yi-Chun confronted the snake demon to Lin Jing flying over, it was only a blink of an eye. Suddenly confronted by Yi-Chun and Lin Jing, who had been evading all this while, the silver-striped snake demon also paused in astonishment. Then, the anger from the previous injuries inflicted by the two rekindled in the eyes of the silver-striped snake demon, which roared in madness and, ignoring Zhou Mo and the rest, shot straight towards Yi-Chun. "First take care of them." With a swirl of true qi in his hand, Yi-Chun pushed Lin Jing several meters back. Then with the fine steel sword in hand, he directly met the oncoming silver-striped snake demon.
Yi-Chen.
Lin Jing's voice was tinged with a hint of sobbing as she watched Yi-Chun charging towards the silver-striped snake demon, her mind turning blank in an instant. Boom! 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 Yi-Chun, soaring into the sky, was engulfed by surging true qi, seemingly wrapped in a green-hued qi. His eyes shone brighter than ever before as he unleashed his strongest torrential rain sword skills towards the silver-striped snake demon. The silver-striped snake demon, with a particular venom for Yi-Chun, thrashed and bit wildly, seeking only to brutally kill the tiny human before it. The sky erupted with true qi, and the ground tore apart. In the midst of the fierce battle, Lin Jing, whose mind had been a blank slate, watched as Yi-Chun, facing off against the drastically empowered silver-striped snake demon, didn't fall behind at all. The power of the sword. It's truly the power of the sword. This silver-striped snake demon's sudden increase in strength is because it has a force of the sword within. In the midst of the intense battle, Yi-Chun fought with increasing brightness in his eyes. All 30 of the Qi meridians, 8 extraordinary meridians, and the 33 meridian wheels within him that had been cultivated were now all open, sensing the strange forces permeating the sky. In that instant, it was as if heaven and earth came to a halt, and all sounds completely vanished. Above and below the heavens, there was only that peculiar force, the strange power of the sword. When that power resonated in a mysterious harmony with Yi-Chen's breathing, his hair flew without any wind behind him, and his eyes suddenly erupted with a compelling divine light. He raised his sword and swung down. This single stroke was like a deluge of heavy rain plummeting from the sky, carrying with it the power to obliterate everything, and cleaved a qi edge over 20 meters long straight at the silver-striped snake demon that seemed to have frozen in midair. In absolute silence, the large body of the silver-striped snake demon was split in two, cleanly severed. After a moment, it was as though the world began to move once again. Boom! Boom! Amongst the spraying blood, The two halves of the serpent's body thunderously crashed onto the ground. The silver-striped snake demon, which had surged in power to that of a 7th-rank demon beast, was now dead at the hands of Yi Chun, slain by his single sword strike. The resounding crash brought Lin Jing back to reality from her blank mind, and Zhou Mo and the others, severely injured, looked on with utter astonishment in their eyes. And Yi Chun, who flew down from the sky, exhaled a breath that was sharp as an arrow. His eyes shone like stars, and in his mind, it felt as if a seed was slowly taking form. Sword intense. It's as if I have touched the threshold of sword intent. What exactly is inside this snake demon that it allowed my sword Dao realm to improve so greatly in an instant? Unable to contain his curiosity, Yi Chun walked towards the corpse of the silver-striped snake demon. Chapter 22. Spiritual Instrument Fragment. After the battle at the shores of Mirror Lake on the Silent Ridge in 10,000 Beasts Mountain, calmness had once again descended all around. Approaching the corpse of the snake demon, Yi Chen's gaze shifted slightly as he looked at the colossal serpent body that had been cut in half with a single sword strike. Within the flesh parted by sword chi, at the belly and head of the snake, lay two clusters of objects emanating a faint light. In the snake's belly was a silver mass the size of a fist, marked all over with silvery patterns like those on the body of the snake demon. This was undoubtedly the innate snake gall Lin Jing and the others had described, capable of greatly increasing a cultivator's true chi cultivation speed. However, at the head of the snake, Yi Chen's heart began to race upon a mere glance at the other object, his attention completely captivated. Even the innate snake gall no longer warranted a second look from him. It was a palm-sized fragment. This piece seemed to be broken off from the blade of a sword, its color ancient, with sword patterns carved onto its surface. Just by looking at this fragment, Yi Chen's mind was bombarded with countless insights into swordsmanship which began to rapidly advance. The aura emanating from this fragment was strikingly similar to that of the sword chi released by the silver-patterned snake demon, and to the bizarre power of the sword Yi Chun had sensed. Could it be that the sudden increase in the snake demon's strength was related to this tiny fragment? Could it be that my sudden contact with the feeling of sword intense was also related to this tiny fragment? What kind of divine marvel is this, possessing such astonishing functions? Looking at the palm-sized fragment, Yi Chun was profoundly shaken.
Ye Chen.
Just as he was about to pick up the fragment to examine it further, Lin Jing's voice came from behind him. Yi Chen, are you all right? You killed the snake demon? Turning his head, Yi Chun saw Lin Jing running over in a flustered manner with Zhou Mo, Hong Man, and Fang Shan, limping along behind her. After running over, Lin Jing's beautiful eyes looked Yi Chen up and down, then shifted to the snake carcass on the ground, her face filled with astonishment and shock. I'm fine, Yi Chen replied with a smile. The innate snake gall, that's the innate snake gall. Zhou Mo, who had walked over, spotted the silver-patterned snake gall radiating a faint glow at the belly of the snake and exclaimed with joy. Hong Man and Fang Shan also followed Zhou Mo's gaze, and upon seeing that the snake gall was exactly like the one depicted in the sect's archives, belonging to the silver-patterned snake demon, they couldn't help but swallow hard, their eyes burning with desire. Now that the silver-patterned snake demon was slain, what remained was the distribution of the spoil, and with the innate snake gall right in front of them, they couldn't suppress their greed. The silver-patterned snake demon was defeated solely by Yi Chun. If there's an innate snake gall, it should belong to Yi Chun, Lin Jing suddenly said, her voice rising as she walked to the side of the snake corpse with her graceful legs, speaking slowly to Zhou Mo and the others. Lin Jing's words brought a silence to the group, and after a while, Hong Man finally nodded and said, That's right. We have rules for distributing the spoils from hunting down demon beasts according to each person's contribution. In this hunt of the silver-patterned snake demon, if anyone deserves the most credit, it's Yi Chun, followed by Sister Lin Jing. We three didn't contribute much, so we have no right to the innate snake gall. Fang Shan hesitated, staring intensely at the innate snake gall, and after swallowing his saliva, he said, If not for Yi Chun, We might all have died at the hands of the silver-patterned snake demon. The snake gall should go to Yi-chan. I have no objections. Zhou appeared hesitant, but seeing the firm expressions of the other three, he ultimately added, then the innate snake gall should go to Yi-chan. However, we could still share the snake skin fairly. Yi-chan, what do you think of this distribution? Lin Jing asked, nodding her head only after seeing the three men's agreement. She gave Yi-chan a radiant smile. The innate snake gallbladder. Sister Lin Jing, you can have it. I'll just take this fragment. Yi-chan shook his head, walked to the serpent's head, picked up the broken sword fragment, and spoke. Fragment. Hearing Yi-chan's words, the others finally noticed the peculiar fragment in the serpent's corpse. Their attention had been completely captivated by the innate snake gallbladder before, and they hadn't noticed the fragment at all. How can this fragment compare to the innate snake gall, Yi-chan? The innate snake gall can smoothly bring you to the 9th level of true chi cultivation. Lin Jing looked at Yi-chan with puzzled eyes. She had not cultivated the meridian refining art, like Yi-chan, and lacked the peculiar sense for the fragment, failing to discern anything special about it. Yi-chan smiled and shook his head. Although I don't know what this fragment is, its value to me is much greater than the innate snake gallbladder. It might also be a rare treasure. I'll take this fragment. While Lin Jing and the others could not sense it, Yi-chan, who had cultivated the meridian refining art from the primordial star scripture, could feel the extraordinary aura within the broken sword fragment. Could something that allowed him to touch upon the threshold of sword intense in such a short time be a mere trifle? Compared to the innate snake gallbladder, which could only aid one in reaching the 9th level of true chi cultivation, for Yi-chan it was far less appealing. With the aid of meridian refining art, and the rotation of the 8 extraordinary meridians and the 33 meridian wheels, his absorption rate of true chi was already much faster than others. Taking an item that would only speed up true chi cultivation wasn't of much use. It was better to give it to Lin Jing. After all, Lin Jing had taught him the cross-rapid kill sword skills, which had been a great help to him, enabling him to achieve minor accomplishment in the 3rd stance of the torrential rain sword skills with ease. In the recent battle against the silver-patterned snake demon, Lin Jing had also exerted a lot of effort. Yi-chan wasn't the type to be greedy or consume all the benefits alone. He had no hesitation in offering the innate snake gallbladder to Lin Jing. I don't want it. Lin Jing shook her exquisite head, with the mind of a young girl wishing only for Yi-chan to receive more. She looked at Yi-chan with a sweet smile. Yi-chan, don't worry about me. I have my own methods for enhancing the speed of true chi cultivation. As for you, even though you're so powerful, you're still in the registered disciple area. With the innate snake gallbladder, maybe you can even take first place in the entrance examination for the outer sect. The innate snake gallbladder, an item coveted by numerous cultivators in the true chi realm, was being modestly passed back and forth between Yi-chan and Lin Jing. This caused Zhou, Hong Man, and Fang Shan standing by to feel somewhat amused and bemused. For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene became unusually relaxed, dissipating the oppression from the previous fight with the silver-patterned snake demon. Just as the three were about to chime in with some teasing remarks, Yi-chan, who had been smiling a moment ago, suddenly furrowed his brows tightly. He abruptly turned his head towards the woods, clenched the fine steel sword in his hand, and shouted coldly, "Who's lurking around sneakily? Come out! Someone?" Yi-chan's sudden action startled Lin Jing, Zhou, and the others, who then turned their gaze to follow Yi-chan's line of sight into the forest. Heh, quite capable indeed to discover someone even with a concealing chi formation set up. No wonder you could see the value in the spiritual instrument fragment. However, stop pushing it back and forth. I'll take the innate snake gallbladder, and I want the spiritual instrument fragment in your hand as well. With a whoosh, a burst of chi energy flew up, breaking the stillness of the woods. A group of people emerged from the forest. The one speaking at the forefront, dressed in splendid clothes with a handsome appearance and a red mole between his eyebrows, mounted a divine marvel lion beast over 4 meters in length, with fiery fur. Behind him followed 7 or 8 youths, each riding their own exotic beasts. You are. You Hai. On seeing this lead figure, the expressions of Yi Chen, Lin Jing, and the others all changed. This man, Zhou Hai, was none other than the one Yi Chen had encountered before in Woniu town. A 7th-level true Qi cultivator from the Heavenly Net sect, a 7th-rank sect. Chapter 23 Pursuit. Yi Chen had a deep impression of Zhou Hai. Back in Woniu town, Zhou Hai had ridden through on the fiery lion beast, leading his squad down the main road and causing quite a stir. Yi Chen still remembered someone nearby saying that the fiery lion beast Zhou Hai was riding had reached the level of a rank 8 demon beast. A rank 8 demon beast. That was even more powerful than the snake demon of Mirror Lake. Yi Chen remembered Zhou Hai riding the fiery lion beast, entering 10,000 Beasts Mountain ahead of schedule, and now unexpectedly encountered him here by the shore of Mirror Lake. From what Zhou Hai said, it seemed he intended to snatch their recently hunted innate snake gallbladder and the sword fragment in his hand. Spiritual instrument fragment? Yi Chen's mind stirred at Zhou Hai's words about the broken sword in his hand being a fragment of a spiritual instrument. Judging by Zhou Hai's demeanor, this fragment must have an extraordinary origin. Zhou Hai, the son of an elder of the noble 7th class Heavenly Net sect. Even you want to rob us of these trifles? Lin Jing obviously knew Zhou Hai's identity too. Her pretty face turned pale at this moment. With Zhou Hai's group strength, if they really robbed them, they wouldn't have the slightest ability to fight back. Let alone Zhou Hai himself with a true Qi 7th layer realm, not to mention the rank 8 demon beast fiery lion beast he rode. Even the 7 or 8 youngsters following him were each at the true Qi 6th layer realm. With such a squad in the Silent Ridge Mountain region, it seemed they could walk sideways without any problems. Rob? I am indeed going to rob you of your things. What can you do about it? Since you know my identity, better leave everything behind quickly. Out of the kindness of my heart, I might even spare your dog lives. Otherwise, heh. Every year many sect disciples die in 10,000 Beasts Mountain. A few more because of you won't bother me. Zhou Hai, riding atop the fiery lion beast, said arrogantly after hearing Lin Jing's words. The 7 or 8 youngsters following him laughed loudly. Leave the things and then beat it. Our young master is kind-hearted and merciful. For sparing your dog lives, you should feel grateful. The triumphant jeering of these people made Hong Man, Fang Shan, and Lin Jing's expressions incredibly ugly. Zhou Mo turned ashen with fear, but only Yi Chen's expression remained calm. What are you hesitating for? What? Thinking of putting up a fight? One of Zhou Hai's lackeys, seeing Yi Chen and the others not moving, spoke out sharply. Another youngster even brazenly provoked, Young master, how about we make a move and teach them a lesson? Zhou Hai, sitting on the fiery lion beast, seemed superior. He looked at Yi Chen and the other 4 as if they were playthings in his hand. Look, my men are getting impatient. How about this? I'll count to 3, and if you want to run, run fast. If not, then stay here forever. 1. Zhou Hai drew out the word, calling out leisurely. What do we do? What do we do? Jing, should we leave the items behind? We can't provoke these people. Knowing they were no match for Zhou Hai's group, Zhou Mo grew so frightened his scalp tingled, and he quickly called out to Lin Jing. Seeing Lin Jing yet to decide, Zhou Mo could no longer bother about the others as Zhou Hai's long drag on the word 1 ended, and he ran away like a startled rabbit, even seeming to have recovered from the injury caused by the silver-patterned snake demon. Ha ha! This kid sure knows how to make a fast getaway. But his antics, they are even worse than a dog. Watching Zhou Mo's frightful and disgraceful escape, the youngsters following Zhou Hai laughed loudly, enjoying themselves. They found it interesting to see the 5-member squad before them falling apart. 2. At this moment, Zhou Hai continued to call out the second number with a drawn-out voice. Seeing Zhou Mo run away and Zhou Hai's squad behaving carelessly, Hong Man and Fang Shan also became a bit restless, continually looking towards Lin Jing. Senior sister, what should we do? Yi Chen, you've got a plan, right? Lin Jing too seemed unsure, anxiety clearly present in her eyes. Yi Chen glanced at the expressions of the others, then turned his gaze back to Zhou Hai and his group. Zhou Hai's mocking gaze and the proud laughter of his subordinates caused a slight flash in Yi Chen's eyes. No matter what Lin Jing and the others decided, the idea of him handing over the sword fragment was out of the question. This sword fragment could potentially allow him to truly enter the third major stage of the Sword Dao realm, comprehending sword intent. Was he to give up this rare opportunity just because of these people in front of him?
Impossible.
1 at the true Qi 7th layer and 8 at the true Qi 6th layer? Along with a rank 8 demon beast fiery lion beast? If it was on flat ground, he might really have no way to deal with them. But this was 10,000 beasts mountain. Yi Chun made his decision in an instant. Then, he looked at Lin Jing and smiled faintly. Senior Sister Lin Jing, I'm afraid we won't see each other again until next time. In a moment, no matter what happens, you all don't need to worry about me. Remember, focus on protecting yourselves. Yi Chen's words gave Lin Jing a jolt in her heart, and she had a bad premonition. Her eyes hastily sought Yi Chen's. Yi Chun, you're not thinking of... Before she could finish, Yi Chun had already taken a step forward. His voice then clearly spread across the area. I've never seen someone rob others' belongings so righteously. Such shamelessness. It truly broadens my horizons. As Yi Chun spoke, his sword burst forth like a torrential rain, and he swiftly moved towards Zhou Hai's location with great speed. Yi Chun actually launched an attack on Zhou Hai's squad first. Lin Jing was stunned, Hong Man and Fang Shan were stunned, and everyone in Zhou Hai's squad was stunned. They couldn't believe that Yi Chun, with only the 5th level of true Qi, would take the initiative to attack, daring to challenge 8 martial artists with the 6th level of true Qi, and 1 with the 7th level. This was simply like an egg striking a rock. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, the sword in Yi Chen's hand proved that all of this really happened. In the moment Zhou Hai's squad was stunned, Yi Chen's sword had already reached in front of them. This instant of sword light even startled their minds and spirits, causing the fiery lion beast to let out an angry roar. Torrential Rain sword skills, 3rd move, Torrential Rain filling the skies. Yi Chun swung his sword, producing 9 sword lights, rapidly stabbing towards the 9 people of Zhou Hai's team. Not only did he attack, but his sword also chose to attack 9 people at the same time. Not only did he attack 9 people, but in the blink of an eye, Yi Chun had also wounded 3 of them. It was simply inconceivable. Haha. If you want to snatch the fragment from my hand, come and try. After stabbing 3 people with his sword, Yi Chun turned his figure, and like a bolt of lightning, he swept into the woods, leaving behind only his voice echoing by the side of Mirror Lake. From the moment Yi Chun made his move to the wounding of 3 people, and then to flying into the forest, it was all in the blink of an eye. However, what happened in this blink of an eye was unexpected to everyone. Damn it, courting death. Kill him for me. The eyes of Zhou Hai, who was on the fiery lion beast, turned instantly frosty, and he, along with his mount, burst forth like a raging fire, hot on Yi Chen's trail. How dare he wound us? He's outrageously bold. We can't let him go, chase. After their initial shock, Zhou Hai's subordinates also burst forth, chasing after Yi Chun together, including the 3 who were injured. Yi Chen's lightning-fast move successfully ignited their rage, and they were even too preoccupied to care about Lin Jing, the 3 others, and the innate snake gall. Lin Jing, Hong Man, and Fang Shan looked at the scene before them, still somewhat dazed.
Yi Chen.
He's really too bold, Hong Man said with a wry smile. Admirable. I've never seen someone so free and easy. I truly admire Yi Chun. He even dares to provoke Zhou Hai. Fang Shan also wryly shook his head. But Lin Jing's pretty face was still deathly pale. No, Yi Chun took action to lead them away for our sake. I can't let him face such great danger alone. She stomped her foot and, clutching the snow-white soft sword in her hand, chased into the jungle as well. Let's follow and see. Seeing Lin Jing's panicked expression, Hong Man and Fang Shan exchanged a glance. After a quick cleanup of the snake demon's corpse, they followed behind Lin Jing into the forest. Deep in the forest, Yi Chen heard the roar of anger and pursuit from behind him. His eyes became even more serene. I really didn't guess wrong. These people are all cultivators of the 6th and 7th layer of true Qi. it's unlikely for them to have cultivated a powerful movement technique. I have cultivated the yellow class mid-grade movement technique, startling goose steps to great accomplishment. I'm not at a disadvantage in terms of speed. That fiery lion beast is somewhat troublesome, but in the forest, its large body is inconvenient. Once I find denser woods and shake off the lion, it's not impossible. Yi Chen's action was not impulsive but fully planned. Except for the 8th class demon beast fiery lion beast, which he wasn't sure about defeating, he had no fear of the others. Having successfully cultivated the cross rapid kill sword skills to great accomplishment and the 3rd move of the torrential rain sword skills to minor accomplishment, and having touched the threshold of comprehending sword intent, he found it incredibly easy to handle martial artists at the 6th level of true chi. Furthermore, with the mysterious broken sword fragment in his hand and the strong recovery power and miraculous perception gained from cultivating the primordial star scripture's meridian refining art, he had some confidence in fighting Zhou Hai with the 7th level of true chi. Therefore, he chose to make a move. Spiritual instrument fragment. For it, it's worth taking the risk. Boom! The 5 true chi vortices inside Yi Chen's body turned rapidly, the vast true chi enveloping his entire body, and his speed as he fleeted through the woods was even faster than that of a leopard demon. While speeding along, Yi Chen, gripping the broken sword fragment, was feeling that marvelous sensation of sword intent, which made the sword intense he was vaguely touching clearer and clearer. Chase him for me. Fiery cloud arrow, bring it out, shoot him down. About 10 yards behind Yi Chen, watching him speed through the forest ahead, Zhou Hai's eyes seemed about to shoot out fire. Yi Chen's striking his subordinates in front of everyone and then fleeing was like openly slapping him several times in the face. Zhou Hai, who was always the one mocking others, had never suffered such humiliation before. Under Zhou Hai's furious command, several young men behind him immediately took out several green bows and fire rune arrows. Drawing the bow, releasing the arrow. Boom! 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 One arrow after another, bearing the glow of true chi, shot out like torrential rain towards Yi Chen, who was speeding ahead in the forest. Chapter 24 Battle. Boom! 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 The fiery cloud arrows were immensely powerful, and even without hitting Yi Chen, they directly pierced through one giant tree after another in the forest, creating bowl-sized holes in the trunks. It even continuously shot through 4 or 5 giant trees, each over a meter in diameter, before the true chi power on the arrows was completely depleted, causing them to fall. If these arrows were to strike a person, even a cultivator at the 6th level of true chi realm would suffer severe injuries. Yi Chen, who was in the midst of a downpour of arrows, was incredibly agile. He managed to dodge these swiftly fired arrows every time, without even slightly reducing his forward fleeing speed. Yi Chen, while advancing rapidly, used the middle-grade yellow class movement technique, startling goose steps, with each tiptoe touching the ground propelling him over 10 meters forward. While running, he had fully opened up the 33 meridian wheel and the 8 extraordinary meridians that he had completed cultivating, and the extraordinary effects of meridian refining art from the primordial star scripture had greatly increased the recovery speed of his true chi, with the true chi spent using startling goose steps rapidly replenishing. At the same time, his perception of the surrounding environment had greatly increased, and he had everything within a 20-meter radius completely within his grasp. It was for this reason that he was able to predict in advance the direction of the incoming fiery cloud arrows and dodge them every time. Fleeing, Yi Chen was rapidly advancing ahead. Chasing, Zhou Hai and his 8 followers, riding on exotic beasts, were in hot pursuit behind. The incredible speed of true chi, combined with the furious roars of the exotic beasts, echoed throughout the silent mountains. Moments later, this frenzied chase burst out of the silent mountains and into various regions of the 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Within these mountain regions of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, many cultivators were hunting demon beasts. When they saw this crazy scene amid the mountains and forests, each of them was stunned for a long time. What's going on? Why are so many people chasing one person? Fiery lion beast, it's Zhou Hai. Zhou Hai is chasing that person in the front. Who is he to have provoked Zhou Hai? This great commotion caught the attention of many people around the perimeter of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, and even many followed to find out what was going on. However, soon many were left far behind. The speed of Yichun and Zhou was simply too fast. Most of the cultivators hunting demon beasts in these regions were at the 5th or 6th stages of the true Qi realm, and there weren't many who could outpace either of them. Half an hour later, when Yichun entered a dense forest, even the 8 followers behind Zhou had lost track of him. Zhou, whose mount was the fiery lion beast, had already left it with his followers in a vine-dense mountain region earlier, and only he continued the relentless pursuit of Yichun. The longer the chase, the more Zhou rage intensified, and eventually, his chilling intent to kill pervaded his entire being. He would not rest until he had personally killed Yichun. In a mountain region over 80 li behind Yichun, Lin Jing stood atop a mountain peak, looking ahead. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Not only had she lost track of Yichun but also of Zhou and his followers. What should I do? Zhou is at the 7th level of the true Qi realm and is the son of an elder of the Heavenly Net sect. He must have no shortage of formidable methods. With so many chasing Yichun, how can he escape? It was me who led him into 10,000 Beasts Mountain. If anything happens to him, then I... Thinking of this, Lin Jing's pretty face turned deathly pale. Behind her, Hong Man and Fang Shan were also looking ahead, their faces equally pale. It'll be okay, it has to be. Yichun is so powerful, and since he made this choice, he must have a way to deal with it. In another mountain region 30 li behind Yichun, Zhou 8 followers were lying atop their exotic beasts, gasping for breath, while Zhou mount, the 8th order demon beast fiery lion beast, was sniffing the air in search of the track to follow. This kid can really run. I've already lost more than half of my true Qi, and yet he's still holding on, and running so fast. Each of them at the 6th level of the true Qi realm, they were unexpectedly outdistanced by Yichun, who was at the 5th level, leaving them feeling both angry and somewhat embarrassed. Don't worry, with the young master after him, he's as good as trapped. The young master's realm of true Qi is higher than his, and he has cultivated a powerful movement technique. Where can he escape to? Once we reunite with the young master, that kid will have likely already been sent by the young master to meet the king of hell. Then, I'll shoot my fiery cloud arrows into his corpse a few more times and vent this rage. After a round of complaints, the 8 followers continued the chase, following the fiery lion beast that had found the tracking direction. The further Yichun fled, the more vigorous his breath became. With the 5 huge true Qi vortexes operating at top speed, all his meridians opened up, and true Qi flowing crazily within him, he felt a sense of brazen and unfettered spirit. Martial arts world, the rivers and lakes of martial arts. Now that he, having just reached the 5th layer of true Qi, could leave many stronger opponents who surpassed his realm far behind him. The day when he'd become a mighty cultivator in the Spirit Sea realm, capable of flying and earth escaping, what a bold and unrestrained life that would be. It wouldn't be in vain that he had descended upon this barbaric wilderness world. You can really keep up with the chase. Feeling the persistence of Zhou aura still closely pursuing him from behind, Yichun glanced at the broken sword fragment in his hand. Over 300 li, the others have long been shaken off. Only Zhou remains. Since you refuse to give up, then let's test out the sword intent realm I've touched upon. Buzz. Yichun carefully stored the sword fragment and a flash of sharpness appeared in his eyes, with a sword light flashing across them. Immediately after, he stopped in the newly entered mountain valley. Boom! Just a few breaths after he halted, an astounding figure rushed over, and with the true Qi dispersing, the figure of Zhou was revealed. Not running anymore? Zhou looked at Yichun, he sneering coldly. His heart tightened with hatred. The youth before him clearly exuded the aura of the 5th layer of true Qi, yet he managed to keep up with him for so long without slowing down. Even his subordinates at the 6th layer of true Qi had been lost. One could imagine that this youth must have cultivated a powerful movement technique to great accomplishment, and he also cultivated an extremely powerful true chi restoration cultivation technique. Just fifth layer of true chi, yet able to give a seventh layer individual a fierce chase, he truly was a genius. However, a dead genius can no longer be called a genius, Zhou Hai said, his eyes turning grim as he looked at Yi Chun. In his heart, Yi Chun was already as good as dead. Zhou Hai, hailing from the 7th-ranked Heavenly Net sect, with a father who was a mid-stage powerhouse in the Spirit Sea realm. He not only mastered 5 sets of yellow-class martial skills, but he had also achieved great accomplishment in 2 superior yellow-class martial techniques. Moreover, he had a hidden trump card up his sleeve. In his eyes, Yi Chun simply wasn't worth his consideration. In the midst of the valley, Yi Chun and Zhou Hai stood facing each other. Kid, obediently hand over the spiritual instrument fragment. And I might leave your whole corpse? Zhou Hai said to Yi Chun, speaking coldly. Leave my whole corpse? Let's see if you have the skill for that. Clang. Yi Chun drew his sword with a resonant sound. The steel sword sang as it was unsheathed. At the same time, the 5 true chi vortices within him stirred, and the surging true chi swept out, surrounding him in a layer of azure aura. Fight! Even if you are at the 7th layer of true chi, even if you are the son of an elder from the Heavenly Net sect, wanting my life, why should I hesitate to fight? Thinking that I would obediently accept death? In your dreams. Quite stubborn, Zhou Hai said as he saw Yi Chun draw his sword, shaking his head and sneering. Yet his voice suddenly deepened. Well then, D. Thump, thump, thump. Zhou Hai flicked his fingers and 6 silver beads shot directly into the air. Next, he pinched a spell, and the 6 beads, originally the size of peach pits, suddenly swelled to the size of washing basins. Each bead shone with silver light and carried an immense force as they hurtled towards Yi Chun. The speed of these flying beads was incredibly fast, ripping through the air with the sound of thunder, and they struck right in front of Yi Chun in an instant. Such speed and power far exceeded that of any opponents Yi Chun had previously faced. Yi Chun's eyes narrowed as he faced the 6 silver beads. His sword's shadow flickered with dazzling sword light, meeting the silver beads with a counterattack. Then the sword light and silver beads collided with a loud clash. Boom! 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 In the midst of the vast true chi surge, the steel sword that Yi Chun wielded under his torrential rain sword skills was directly smashed into pieces by the silver beads, and even the massive backlash of true chi sent Yi Chun flying more than 15 meters, spitting out a large mouthful of blood. And yet, those 6 silver beads only slowed for a moment, before hurtling towards Yi Chun again. Yi Chun had no time to wipe the blood from his mouth. He struck the ground fiercely with his palm, evading the strike from the silver beads narrowly as he deployed the startling goose steps. These silver beads. Watching the 6 silver beads, which had shrunk down and flew back to Zhou Hai's hands, Yi Chun was shaken. He could feel that these beads were no ordinary objects. 7th layer of true chi, from the Heavenly Net sect, Zhou Hai truly was terrifyingly strong. Chapter 25 Life and Death. That's all you've got? And you dare to run wild before me? With 6 silver pearls in his hand, Zhou Hai looked at Yi Chun, who had just spat out a mouthful of blood, his gaze dark and gloomy. You managed to dodge once. Let's see how you dodge a second time, to die under my 6 extreme silver pearls. You should close your eyes in resignation. As his words fell, his eyes instantly turned piercingly cold and fearsome. Boundless true chi violently swept out from him, and at the same time, the 6 silver pearls in his hands flew up again. 6 extreme killing formation. This time, not only did the 6 silver pearls grow larger, but they also formed a bizarrely shaped hexagonal array, permeated with terrifying killing intent. Carrying rolling waves of true chi, they bombarded Yi Chun once more. The speed and power of the 6 silver pearls this time were faster and more astonishing than before. Even though Yi Chun had already discerned the direction of their deadly onslaught as soon as the silver pearls shot out, he still felt like there was no way to evade them. This was probably the might that only a superior yellow-tier martial skill could possess. Torrential rain sword skills. Torrential rain filling the skies. With evasion no longer an option, and no need for further evasion, Yi Chun, who no longer had a sword in his hand, still executed his strongest killing move. With a flick of his fingers in the air, a fierce wind surged, as if a strange energy flitted across the field. In an instant, the fractured fine steel sword fragments on the ground burst into the air, now suspended in space. In the next split second, they exploded furiously into motion, forming a dense shower of sword fragments that collided with the oncoming 6 silver pearls. There were dozens of fragments, all manipulated by Yi Chun through empty air control, a highly profound technique for sword technique manipulation. Facing Zhou Hai, whose true qi realm and martial arts were overwhelmingly powerful, Yi Chun finally ignited the sword intense seed he had newly touched upon the threshold of mastering. Sword intense, the most formidable means in the sword art realm. Even just touching upon the threshold and gathering a tiny sword intense seed could greatly amplify the power of sword techniques. Boom! 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 In the sky, the formidable offensive moves of both sides collided in an instant, accompanied by the loud impacts of true qi, and then the 6 silver pearls and the myriad fine steel sword fragments violently smashed into one another. My 6 extreme silver pearls are specifically crafted for the 6 extreme killing formation. You think these lousy fine steel swords could stop me? Seeing the 2 powers clash in the sky, Zhou Hai sneered coldly, his hand seals dramatically changing. The vast true qi that enveloped the 6 silver pearls poured into them. In the blink of an eye, the beads suddenly emitted a whistling sound and once again ruthlessly pressed down on the fine steel sword fragments. Thud! The doubled force of the 6 silver pearls, coupled with the sword intent seed-controlled fine steel sword fragments, collided fiercely, erupting into a thunderous explosion. Amidst the deafening blast, the fine steel sword fragments had completely disintegrated into powder, but this time, the torrent of sword fragments actually blasted the 6 silver pearls back in recoil. The rebounded silver pearls had lost much of their original silver brightness. Tui! Zhou Hai virtually spat out blood the moment the silver pearls and the fine steel swords collided, clearly suffering from an internal injury due to the backlash of their colliding forces. And his body was swept away by the shockwave of the collision, tumbling backward to the ground with a crash. Thud! 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 The 6 silver pearls, rebounding back, fell beside him. Looking at the dimmed silver pearls by his side and still standing Yi Chun, Zhou Hai's eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? He was at the 7th level of the true qi realm and had even used a well-crafted superior yellow-tier martial technique. The 6 extreme silver pearls were much stronger in quality than Yi Chen's fine steel sword. Yet, in this clash, he was the one who had been severely injured. This utterly shattered his understanding. Breathless, Zhou Hai struggled to his feet with trembling arms, gazing at the powdered fine steel swords falling to the ground. Suddenly, a thought struck him. Sword intense. Could it be that you have touched the realm of sword intense?
Non. Impossible.
There are countless prodigies in the heavenly net sect, yet none could touch the realm of sword intense at the true qi realm stage. You're only at the 5th level of the true qi realm. How could you possibly have touched the realm of sword intense? Zhou Hai stared at Yi Chun, his eyes red and incredulous. For the first time, facing the Yi Chun whom he had deemed unworthy, Zhou Hai felt a sense of danger. Sword intense, indeed the most formidable stage of sword arts. Remarkable! I've only just touched the threshold of sword intense, gathered a whiff of the sword intense seed, and I could already enhance my sword technique power this much. If I fully master sword intense, perhaps my torrential rain sword skills could reach the level of a profound tier martial technique. Sword intense, truly worthy of being a sword art realm that even Spirit Sea realm experts rarely comprehend. Mightily incomparable, enhancing the sword technique's power many times over compared to the sword follows heart stage. Looking at Zhou Hai, who lay on the ground spitting blood, unable to believe his eyes, Yi Chun was also somewhat surprised by the power of his last move. Come again! Yi Chun stepped forward, his fingers shaping the empty air gesture once more, as a wind of sword intent once again spread throughout the heavens and earth. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Stones from the ground started to levitate and suspend in the air, and then, all at once, they hurtled towards Zhou Hai. Having gained greatly from his previous move, Yi Chun gave no chance for Zhou Hai to catch his breath, intent on completely defeating him. Sword intense. It really is sword intense. Zhou Hai, watching the stones levitating, finally grasped the methods of Yi Chun. No wonder this youngster dared to challenge me. He had actually comprehended sword intense. Facing the furious barrage of stones, Zhou Hai suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. To think that a mere disciple at the 5th level of the true Qi realm would push me to this point. I really misjudged the situation. But now it really should come to an end. As he said these words, the crazed laughter came to an abrupt halt. Then, with a fierce slap on his waist, a piece of yellow talisman paper suddenly flew out. No sooner had the piece of yellow paper taken flight than it self-ignited without any wind, and following that, a terrifying sound of a spear gun resonated in all directions. Amidst this sound of a spear gun, the heavens and earth seemed to dim, and countless streams of true Qi from all around crazily surged into the burning talisman paper. At the same time, a thick blood light tumbled in the air, and a blood-colored spear, over 30 meters in length, appeared in the sky. The moment the long spear appeared, the countless stones flying towards Zhou Hai shattered as if they had hit a barrier, and then, with a turnaround of the spear's tip and a fierce flick of its tail, it shot towards Yi Chun carrying a torrent of blood light. What is this thing? Seeing the burning talisman paper and the blood spear emerge, Yi Chun was greatly alarmed in his heart. This was clearly not a feat that someone of the true Qi realm could possess. Could it be the measure left to him by Zhou Hai's Spirit Sea Realm Master Father? In an instant, this thought flashed through Yi Chun's mind, and at the same time, the colossal blood spear, as if slicing through the void, instantly pierced through the air to Yi Chun's front. What to do? How to dodge? In the blink of an eye, Yi Chun almost subconsciously thought of the fragment he had obtained from the silver-veined snake demon's body, the entity referred to as a spiritual instrument fragment by Zhou Hai. Facing this blood spear, whose origin he couldn't fathom, his only hope lay in the fragment which had allowed the silver-veined snake demon to suddenly surge in strength and let him touch the threshold of the wondrous sword intense. Whoosh! Yi Chun's sword intense seed swept up, and the palm-sized fragment, in an instant, shot out from his waist into the air, directly meeting the piercing long spear. Boom! As the fragment collided with the tip of the long spear, endless spiritual light burst forth, illuminating the heavens and earth. This endless spiritual light caused the true Qi vortex within Yi Chun's body to whir abruptly, making everything in the world pale in comparison. It seemed like a long time had passed, yet it also appeared to be just a moment. In the midst of the collision between the fragment and the long spear shattered directly, turning into phantoms that dissipated completely in the air. The broken sword fragment, however, somersaulted and fell from the sky. Yi Chun reached out to catch the fragment and found it had faint spear marks on it. Apart from that, there were no other signs of damage. This broken sword fragment had actually withstood the blood spear unleashed by the burning talisman paper. How is that possible? Seeing even the blood spear smashed by Yi Chun, Zhou Hai had become completely dumbfounded. This is the life-saving spirit talisman my father left me. Even a strong man at the 12th layer of the true Qi realm would be blasted to death by the talisman. A spiritual instrument fragment. You can actually control a spiritual instrument fragment. Sword intense. It's from this spiritual instrument fragment that you realized the sword intense, which enabled you to activate it. Zhou Hai yelled maniacally, screaming out the inconceivability in his heart. Yi Chun, watching Zhou Hai who seemed mad, went step by step towards him. No, you can't kill me. My father is a mid-level Spirit Sea Realm strong man. If you dare kill me, my father will personally slay you wherever on earth. Seeing Yi Chun's movements, Zhou Hai ran backward like crazy, shouting at the top of his lungs. Thud! A piece of the fragment flew up once again, like a whirling flying sword, slicing directly across Zhou Hai's neck. Bang! A large head soared into the air as if frozen, with blood spurting wildly from the severed neck like a fountain. Boom! Afterward, Zhou Hai's head, along with his body, crashed down onto the ground with a thud. Can't kill you. Damn it. You made move after move wishing to put me to death. If I let you go, could I really expect you to spare me next time? So what if you are a mid-level Spirit Sea Realm strongman? One day, I too will become a Spirit Sea Realm strongman. Yichun looked at Zhou Hai's corpse and retrieved the broken sword fragment. This is not a place to stay for long. After looking around, Yichun turned and walked away. Having taken only a couple of steps, he seemed to recall something and returned to Zhou Hai's dead body, searching it. Unsurprising for the son of a Spirit Sea Realm strong man, carrying so many good things on him. After taking a large roll of gold banknotes, along with the 2 talisman papers which Zhou Hai had used just like the blood spear, several manuals, and a few other items, Yichun turned into a lingering shadow and flew swiftly towards the next mountain region, leaving only Zhou Hai's head, along with his corpse, lying in a pool of blood. More than half an hour later, accompanied by the roar of a lion beast, 8 young figures finally found their way into the valley. When they saw the headless corpse and the nearby rolling head in the valley, these youngsters instantly turned pale. Heavens! Oh heavens, our young master! This. Then, a sharp scream rang throughout the valley. A great calamity has befallen the young master. Quickly inform the elders. We're finished. We're all finished. Chapter 26. Re-entering Starlight Tower. The shrill screams of Zhou Hai's followers echoed in the valley, but Yichun could no longer hear them. He had already crossed numerous mountain regions and entered a black pine forest. The Spirit Sea Realm is indeed strong. Just a single talisman was able to wield such mighty power, even capable of penetrating and killing a cultivator of the 12th layer of the true Qi realm directly. And that spiritual instrument fragment, mysterious and unfathomable, it not only drastically enhanced the strength of the silver-patterned snake demon but also allowed me to touch upon the threshold of sword intense. Now I can even block the talismans crafted by strong practitioners of the Spirit Sea Realm, truly miraculous. Yichun flew swiftly, while touching the talisman and the broken sword fragment in his chest pocket. I am currently at the 5th layer of the true Qi realm, still far from the Spirit Sea Realm. Sword intense, I have only just condensed a wisp of sword intense seed, and with this broken sword fragment, I must continue to comprehend sword intense, striving to completely grasp the full sword intense soon. I must continue cultivating. Zhou Hai's father is a strong practitioner of the Spirit Sea Realm, and I've already attracted this trouble, so I must keep improving my strength. Countless thoughts raced through Yichun's mind, and soon after, he flew out of the black pine forest. One day later, in a secluded cave within a mountain. The entrance to the cave was concealed by numerous stones, making it difficult to spot from a distance. Inside the cave, Yichun sat in quiet meditation. After running continuously, it was only after he was a few hundred li away from the valley where he had killed Zhou Hai that he found a cave to stop and rest. Following his battles with the silver-patterned snake demon and Zhou Hai, his cultivation in the true Qi realm had not increased, but a pleasant surprise had occurred unexpectedly. The final 3 of the 33 meridian wheels that he had not yet refined started to show signs of loosening during the process of comprehending the battles. The 33 meridian wheels form the final step of the primordial star scriptures, meridian refining art. If Yichun could complete this step, then he would have finished all the Qi meridians, the 8 extraordinary meridians, and the 33 meridian wheels outlined in the meridian refining art. That would qualify him to acquire the 2nd layer of cultivation techniques from the primordial star scriptures, Gang Yuan chapter, and would allow him to enter the Starlight Tower once again. The Starlight Tower, the divine tower with inscrutable depths, where the primordial star scriptures' 1st layer meridian refining art had already brought countless surprises to Yichun. It not only let him advance smoothly from the 1st layer to the 5th layer of the true Qi realm, but it also greatly increased the speed of his true Qi cultivation and recovery. More precious still was that it was the meridian refining art that greatly enhanced his body's sensitivity to his surroundings, allowing him to escape perilous situations time and again, and even reached the threshold of understanding sword intents, thereby condensing a sword intent seed. Yi Chun was extremely eager to obtain the second layer of cultivation technique from the primordial star scriptures, Gang Yuan chapter, following the meridian refining art. Yi Chun was already looking forward to entering the Starlight Tower once again. Gathering his chi and nurturing his spirit, Yi Chun sat quietly in the cave. Once his mind and spirit had completely settled, he finally began to tackle the last 3 meridian wheels of the 33. 2 hours later, the 31st meridian wheel was finally refined. After 6 hours, the 32nd meridian wheel was also successfully refined. 1 day later, when the 33rd meridian wheel was refined, the true chi within Yi Chun's body, even without being drawn upon, suddenly burst out from the chi sea and wildly circulated through his chi meridians, the 8 extraordinary meridians, and the 33 meridian wheels within his body. In the end, it formed a complete Great Zhou heavenly cycle. Just as the Great Zhou heavenly cycle was formed, and the true chi flew back into the chi sea, Yi Chun felt that the magnificent star tower within his chi sea once again began to draw him in. It was the Starlight Tower calling him to enter. He was finally about to enter the Starlight Tower again. With a thought, Yi Chun entered his chi sea, and in an instant, just like the first time he entered the Starlight Tower, the gates of the tower flung open, and his entire mind and spirit were drawn into the first layer. In the first layer of the pagoda in the Great Hall, he recognized the Great Hall and the 5 enormous fire altars. Watching the flames roaring within the fire altars, Yi Chun felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. As Yi Chun's gaze swept over the 5 giant fire altars, a mysterious melody entered his mind. This was the activation spell for the second layer of the primordial star scriptures, Gang Yuan chapter. Indeed, having completely cultivated the first layer of the technique, he finally qualified to activate the second layer. Accompanied by the mysterious melody, Yi Chun sat down amongst the 5 giant fire altars. He closed his eyes and began to recite the activation spell for the second layer of the Gang Yuan chapter. As he recited, fierce winds swept through the first layer of the Great Hall again, and the fire inside the fire altars blazed into the sky. Boom! 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 Golden lights flickered, magical beastly howls sang, and thunder exploded wildly. In the midst of this miraculous scene, strands of light formed into words and flew into Yi Chun's mind. Glancing at the neatly arranged words in his mind, the first thing he saw were 9 bold characters. Gang Yuan chapter, second layer, Gang Yuan mantra. While Yi Chun entered the Starlight Tower and obtained the second layer of the primordial star scriptures, Gang Yuan chapter, the Gang Yuan mantra. Above the valley where Zhou Hai had died, a mournful howl pierced the air. This blood-curdling scream, which echoed in all directions, caused all cultivators within 100 miles to experience a painful ringing in their ears. What is this sound? Countless cultivators in the 10,000 Beasts Mountain looked up into the sky. When they saw a blood-red escaping light flash across the sky at an incredibly fast speed, each of them was struck with terror and dared not even breathe heavily. A powerful elder from the Spirit Sea realm has come to the 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Boom! In the midst of countless horrified gazes, the blood-red escaping light landed in the valley where Zhou Hai had died. The light faded to reveal the figure of an elder clad in a blood robe. This elder was extremely thin, resembling a skeleton, yet he radiated an immensely vast aura. Even without exerting any oppressive force, his breath alone was strong enough to make the leaves of trees that were more than a meter thick rustle wildly. Elder, you have come, the young master, he. Upon the arrival of the blood-robe elder, the 8 figures in the valley were shaking all over with fear, stammering, unable to complete their sentences. The 8th-ranked demon beast, the fiery lion beast, was so frightened that it lay prostrate on the ground, not daring to move an inch. These 8 figures were none other than Zhou Hai's 8 followers, and the elder in the blood robe was Zhou Hai's father, an elder from the 7th-rank Heavenly Net sect, a powerful mid-stage Spirit Sea realm cultivator, Zhou Yuntian. Zhou Yuntian didn't pay any attention to these 8 people. His gaze was fixed on the decapitated corpse and the huge skull next to the body on the ground. Upon seeing the face on the skull, even Zhou Yuntian, a powerful mid-stage Spirit Sea realm cultivator, stumbled backwards several steps. Higher! Afterward, Zhou Yuntian let out a piercing scream of agony. Boom! 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 Amidst his screams of sorrow, he waved his hand through the air, and countless trees were uprooted and flung about wildly. Furthermore, with a single gesture, he sucked 2 of his followers toward him, and with a slap, he bashed them until blood flowed from their 7 orifices, killing them instantly. My hire is dead. What use is there in keeping your dog lives? After completely smashing the corpses of these 2 followers, he flung their bodies tens of meters away with a swing of his hand. Elder, have mercy. Elder, please have mercy. The 6 remaining followers had already lost all color in their faces and knelt on the ground, frantically kowtowing. Looking at the 6 people who continued to kowtow until their heads were broken and bleeding, Zhou Yuntian's eyes were filled with a cold light. Only my hire should be killing others. Who would dare kill my hire? Speak. Who was it? Who killed my hire? I will tear him to pieces. Tear him to pieces. While the 6 followers were repeatedly kowtowing, they hurriedly reported, Elder, we were accompanying the young master hunting demon beasts on the 10,000 Beasts Mountain when we suddenly heard the hissing of the silver-striped snake demon. The young master then went to the Mirror Lake area and encountered 5 people. That young man was too fast. We couldn't keep up with him, and only the young master chased after him. By the time we found the young master again, he had already been killed by that despicable murderer. Amidst their babbling, Zhou Yuntian's gaze grew colder and colder. The 5th level of true qi? How could a youth at the 5th level of true qi possibly kill higher? I had provided higher with 3 spirit talismans, 3 whole spirit talismans. Unless it were a powerful cultivator from the Spirit Sea realm, no one could have harmed his life. You are lying. Whoosh! Zhou Yuntian stretched out his hand and sucked in 4 men, and with 4 consecutive smacks, without even blinking, he slapped the 4 men to death. Elder, it's true. The other 4 who were with that young man can testify. The 2 still alive were so scared they wet their pants and cried out in a panic. Zhou Yuntian, with a chilling tone, addressed the pallid pair. Find me those 4 people. Discover the identity of the one who killed my hire. This blood debt, I will have it repaid with blood. Yes, Elder. We will definitely find out that person's identity. The 2 who narrowly escaped with their lives frantically kowtowed in agreement. Meanwhile, Zhou Yunhai's gaze returned to Zhou Hai's corpse once more, his complexion deathly white, remaining silent for a long time. Gang Yuan Mantra. The Gang Yuan chapter 2nd layer of the Primordial Star Scriptures cultivation technique. This mantra is the most crucial layer of the Gang Yuan chapter. It is the profound mystical method for cultivating Gang Yuan true qi. Practitioners who breathe in and out are absorbing the heaven and earth true qi, and Gang Yuan true qi is a further refinement of this qi to reach the degree of extreme Gang Yuan. Inside the cave, Yi Chun had emerged from the Starlight Tower and his mind and spirit had returned to his body. Looking at the new cultivation technique within his mind, the more Yi Chun read, the brighter his eyes shone. Chapter 27 Anomalies. Mysterious. Oh, so mysterious. The Gang Yuan mantra says that Gang Yuan True Qi is a unique form of true qi cultivation created by the primordial star scripture, possessing unbelievable wondrous uses. After cultivation, not only does it greatly enhance the essence, qi, and spirit, but it also allows one's strength to surge dramatically. Once all the true qi in the qi sea is transformed into Gang Yuan True Qi, one will have no rival within the same realm, and could even rely solely on Gang Yuan True Qi to slay those in higher realms. As Yi Chan read the various wondrous applications of cultivating the Gang Yuan mantra, his heart surged with excitement. After the battle with Zhou Hai, he felt the importance of strength even more. Currently, he was only slightly stronger than others due to his comprehension of cultivation techniques and martial skills, but did not have a significant advantage in true qi itself. Once he cultivated Gang Yuan True Qi. The quality of his True Qi would far exceed that of cultivators who worked with heaven and earth True Qi, giving him a new trump card. Yi Chun suppressed his surging emotions and continued to look at the spell text of the Gang Yuan mantra. Cultivating the Gang Yuan mantra requires the circulation of refined vital energy technique, which is to refine the heaven and earth True Qi in the Qi Si into Gang Yuan True Qi by utilizing the Qi meridian, 8 extraordinary meridians, and 33 meridian wheels that are opened throughout the body, based on meridian refining art. The Gang Yuan mantra is truly cultivated to the extreme only when all the True Qi in the Qi Si is transformed into Gang Yuan True Qi, which signifies the successful cultivation of the second layer of this technique. At that time, one could enter the Starlight Tower again to obtain the third layer of the Gang Yuan chapter of the Primordial Star Scripture. The circulation of refined vital energy technique consists of combining the 3 methods Qi meridians Qi moving, 8 extraordinary meridians Qi running, and 33 meridian wheels Qi transforming. And the method for the True Qi to circulate is as follows. After reading the method of cultivating the Gang Yuan mantra 3 times and thoroughly integrating it, Yi Chun began the actual cultivation of the Gang Yuan mantra. In the cave, complete silence ensued, leaving only Yi Chun seated in meditation, and the heaven and earth True Qi circulating in his body in a peculiar manner. 3 days later, among the countless strands of Cyan True Qi undergoing the great circulation of the Zhou Tian meridians, a strand of True Qi suddenly began to tremble violently. In the midst of this violently trembling True Qi, Yi Chun's mind, Qi Si, and flesh throughout his body exploded simultaneously with a sound that seemed to split heaven and earth, and in an instant, Yi Chun felt his mind become extremely clear. His Qi Si surged with True Qi, impurities rapidly expelled from his flesh, lightening his whole body, and that trembling strand of True Qi, amidst the thunderous sounds of the essence, Qi, and spirit, transformed directly into a strand of bright silver True Qi, flying back into the True Qi vortex in Yi Chun's Qi Si. This strand of silver True Qi was precisely Gang Yuan True Qi. Yi Chun had finally cultivated the first strand of Gang Yuan True Qi. As soon as this strand of Gang Yuan True Qi entered the True Qi vortex, it merged into the thousands of strands of Cyan True Qi within, and although it was just a single strand, this bright silver True Qi was far more dazzling than all the Cyan ones. It was so unique. After cultivating the first strand of Gang Yuan True Qi, Yi Chun did not stop there. He continued the circulation of refined vital energy technique, and after the birth of the first strand, the speed at which he transformed heaven and earth True Qi into Gang Yuan True Qi also increased. Another day passed, and he had already cultivated hundreds of strands of Gang Yuan True Qi in his Qi Si. So it went on, and after 7 days Yi Chun emerged completely from his cultivation of Gang Yuan True Qi. By then, his Qi Si contained thousands of strands of Gang Yuan True Qi, which added a dazzling silver-white hue among the countless Cyan True Qi in the 5 major True Qi vortices in his Qi Si. Upon opening his eyes, Yi Chun immediately felt that the world around him became clearer. The minute trembles of every grass and tree more than 100 meters away, even the patterns and hairs on a small insect, he could sense clearly if he wished. While cultivating meridian refining art, he could only control environmental changes within 20 meters around him. Now, having just cultivated the Gang Yuan mantra, his environmental perception had improved to more than 100 meters. Environmental perception has great benefits. It can help foresee environmental changes and, especially in combat, may even be used to anticipate and overcome the enemy. Yi Chun, having fought many battles, deeply understood these advantages. How smelly! Such a lot of impurities. After sensing the changes around him and examining himself, Yi Chun smiled wryly. At this moment, his body was covered with a thick layer of black grime, which was the impurity expelled from his body during the cultivation of Gang Yuan mantra. Time to get cleaned up. Bothered by the foul odor of the impurities, Yi Chun quickly left the cave, found a pond, and began to wash his body and clothes. After thoroughly cleaning himself and putting back on his clothes which had been dried by True Qi, Yi Chun felt light and refreshed. His eyes were exceptionally bright, and his handsome face had well-defined lines. His bearing had improved a lot since he had first arrived on the barbaric wilderness continent. I've been so focused on cultivating true chi these days. I haven't kept up with martial skills and cultivation techniques. Now, time to start practicing martial skills and cultivation techniques. After cultivating the Gang Yuan mantra, Yichen found his mind to be clearer, and he had new insights into many cultivation techniques and skills he hadn't fully understood before, so he couldn't wait to begin his practice. Snapping off a tree branch, Yichen began to demonstrate various swordsmanship techniques outside the cave. Basic sword skills, cross-rapid kill sword skills, torrential rain sword skills, every move and form were infinite in their sword charm. After also practicing the startling goose steps, Yichen sat down and took out the broken sword fragment. Sword intent. With the help of this broken sword fragment, I touched the threshold of sword intent. Now, I will strive to further elevate my sword intent, aim for the sword intent seed to sprout and grow, and completely enter the realm of sword intent. Holding the broken sword fragment, Yichen closed his eyes to perceive the subtle power of the sword and its sword intent emanating from the fragment. Swish, swish, swish. As he comprehended, leaves from the trees on the ground around him began to fly up and suspend in the air, vibrating gently with Yichen's breath. Sword intent, the true essence of swordsmanship, entering the realm of sword intent. Everything can become a sword, become swordsmanship. Yichen's eyes snapped open, and with a flick of his finger toward the front, thousands of leaves suspended in the air rapidly flew forward. Puffed, puffed, puffed. And finally, all of them pierced into the large tree ahead. Boom! 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 These thousands of leaves even directly broke 7 or 8 giant ancient trees. The astonishing power would shock a true Chi level 7 expert, who was 2 realms higher than Yichen. But he just shook his head. This isn't real sword intent. It's still at the threshold of sword intent, not stepping through the door. I can only control these leaves with the sword intent seed, but I can't turn these leaves into swords, into swordsmanship. Yichen immersed his mind and spirit and continued to comprehend the sensation from the broken sword fragment. Once again, endless leaves flew into the air, hovering. This time, after 3 full days with the leaves suspended motionlessly in the air, Yichen, who sat in meditation, suddenly opened his eyes, and a brilliant silver light flashed across them. Next, these countless suspended leaves began to separate and drift upwards and downwards, each leaf moving to its own rhythm. In the end, all the leaves seemed to transform into swords, and in the air, they stirred up a terrifying sword wind. Boom! 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 These leaves were suddenly imbued with the torrential rain sword skills, turning thousands of leaves into a true torrential rain that burst forward. Each leaf could easily snap a giant tree, and if Yichen hadn't controlled them, these leaves would likely have turned countless large trees into rubble. Sword intent. It was undoubtedly the sensation of sword intent. Gang Yuan True Chi, the wonderful Gang Yuan True Chi, has indeed brought me into the realm of sword intent. Yichen looked at the collapsed and broken giant trees in front of him and extended his palm, where a strand of silver true chi danced. Originally unable to truly cross the threshold of sword intent, Yichen had tried infusing true chi into the broken sword fragment to comprehend the sword intents within it. When he merged the blue heavenly earth true chi, his understanding of the broken sword fragment did not deepen. But when Yichen infused Gang Yuan true chi into the fragment, sudden sounds of 10,000 swords chanting arose from within it. These chants transmitted into Yichen's mind, and he felt as though the heavens and earth had exploded, with every mysterious insight becoming completely clear. In an instant, he had crossed the threshold of sword intent and thoroughly entered the realm of sword intent. Sword intent, the highest level of swordsmanship cultivation, and even among the Spirit Sea realm powerhouses, few could comprehend sword intent. Yet Yichen, at the True Chi level 5, with the aid of Gang Yuan True Chi, entered this powerful state of swordsmanship. Truly mastering sword intent, Yichen had truly grasped the essence of swordsmanship. If the current him encountered Zhou Hai, relying on the miraculous sword intent, He could kill Zhou Hai in one unexpected move. Yi Chun was relishing this newfound marvelous sword intent when the fragmented sword piece he kept at his waist suddenly began to vibrate intensely. What's going on? Yi Chun took out the vibrating fragment, looking at it fluttering in his palm with surprise. This broken sword fragment was profoundly mysterious, and Yi Chun had never been able to see through it. Even when using it to shield against the spirit talisman Zhou Hai unleashed, there had been no abnormality. But now it was trembling incessantly, making Yi Chun wonder. Unknown to Yi Chun, as the broken sword fragment kept vibrating, a transformation was taking place 1,000 miles away from his location. In the deepest part of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, within a domain surrounded by 6 heaven-reaching giant peaks, there was a significant change. There lay a vast valley encircled by the peaks, and in the center of the valley, there was a large lake with countless lotus leaves, among which only one white lotus flower bloomed. Outside the lake, numerous great demons roared and ran amok. Among these demons, there was an iron-tailed giant lizard over 50 meters long, a throwback demon monkey towering 80 meters, and even a black giant eagle with wings spanning over 100 meters. However, none of these great demons dared to approach the lake in the middle of the valley, nor did any dare set foot within 100 meters around it. Just as the broken sword fragment in Yi Chun's hand vibrated incessantly, the waters of the lake, which no demon dared near, suddenly surged wildly. The frantic waters even scared many great demons into screaming and fleeing in panic. Amid the chaos of fleeing demons and the surging lake, the lone lotus flower seemed to come to life, gently turning, its petals aligning with the direction where Yi Chun was located. Then, a murmuring voice emanated from within the lotus. "Huh! Someone else has reached the qualification to enter the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode?" At the very moment this voice sounded, miles away from the lake, the broken sword fragment in Yi Chun's hand shot forward. The fragment's direction of flight was precisely that of the deepest part of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, where the lake and lotus flower resided. As Yi Chun watched the sword fragment flying away in astonishment, a voice suddenly echoed in his mind. "Congratulations, young man. You have acquired the qualification to enter the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode." 1,000 Lotus Cave abode? Startled by this unexpected voice, just before Yi Chun, the indistinct figure of 100 zhang tall, approximately 333 meters, three-eyed giant ape appeared out of thin air. As soon as the giant ape appeared, it reached out its huge hand toward Yi Chun. "What is this?" Before Yi Chun could even react, the colossal figure of the three-eyed giant ape grasped him in its palm. Boom! Subsequently, the figure of the three-eyed giant ape dissipated, and Yi Chun had vanished from his original spot. Chapter 28,000 Lotus Cave Abode. From the farthest western reaches of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, if one traveled another 300 li westward, they would encounter a continuous range of mountain peaks, veiled by a sea of clouds. Within these cloud-wreathed peaks, majestic palaces were erected, and hidden beneath them lay mysterious caves abodes. If a disciple from a sect in the eastern region of Heavenly Wind Kingdom were to witness this sea of clouds and mountains, they would surely recognize it as the dwelling place of Transcends sect, the highest-ranking sect among the 36 sects of the entire eastern region of the kingdom. At this moment, on the grand square of the Transcends sect's mountain gate, thousands of figures were seated and cultivating. These were all a group of somewhat naive young men and young women. After cultivating for a while, many among these young men and women would stealthily open their eyes and peer toward the high platform of the grand square. On the high platform of the grand square, a young girl clad in light blue garments sat in silent meditation, her eyes closed. She was an exceptionally beautiful girl, no more than 16 or 17 years old. Yet she possessed a face that could bring disaster, delicate and ravishing. Her faint eyebrows were like a pair of crescent moons, and beneath them were gently closed eyes and long lashes, captivatingly beautiful. Her snow-like skin, upturned nose, rosy lips, and those small dimples when she smiled, all exuded an enthralling beauty. If Yi Chun were to see this young girl, he would undoubtedly recognize her as Zhang Yao, the prodigy who was worshipped by countless young disciples of Qingyun's sect and had stepped into the spirit sea realm at just 16 years of age, the foremost talent among the 36 sects. The gazes of the young men and women on the grand square, who were stealthily looking at the high platform, were all fixated on the young girl there. Admiration, excitement, and reverence filled their eyes. Zhang Yao, senior sister. I can't believe that it's you supervising our cultivation on the grand square this time. Zhang Yao, senior sister, is the youngest powerhouse in the spirit sea realm of our Taishan sect. She stepped into this realm at merely 17 years of age. I heard that when senior sister Zhang Yao was 14, she had already reached the 10th level of true qi. I'm 14 this year and am only at the 5th level of true qi, far behind her. Not only does senior sister Zhang Yao have unmatched talent, but her beauty is also breathtaking. The young men and women whispered among themselves. Yet suddenly, Zhang Yao, who was seated on the high platform, opened her eyes from meditation. The young men and young women on the grand square who were sneaking glances at Zhang Yao were startled, fearing that their lack of focus on cultivation had been noticed, and hurriedly closed their eyes to resume their practice. What they didn't know was that the moment Zhang Yao opened her eyes was precisely when Yi Chun was grabbed by the 100-zhang tall phantom of a three-eyed giant ape. As Zhang Yao opened her eyes, she looked toward the direction of 10,000 Beasts Mountain, and at the same moment, a faint blue lotus water pattern briefly flickered on her fair forehead, then vanished. Another person has entered the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode? Although many have entered it over these 3 years, alas, none has managed to pass the fire and water Dao trial within the cave abode. When will I find a companion to explore the inner sanctum of the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode with me? Zhang Yao murmured to herself, gently biting her lip. After a moment of hesitation, she stretched out her hand, flicking a talisman from her palm, which transformed into a streak of flame and flew towards the depths of Taishan's sect. Watching the flame streak away, Zhang Yao rose to her feet from her meditative pose. Perhaps a trip to 10,000 Beasts Mountain is in order. Maybe this time, the individual entering the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode will become my future companion. As she stood, her cascading blue hair fell loosely around her, and the light breeze teased individual strands into a delicate dance, creating an indescribable charm. Soon after Zhang Yao had risen, a mystical white hawk flew in from the depths of Taishan's sect, finally perching atop the high platform, beside Zhang Yao. Senior sister Zhang Yao, you called for Chan'er? What instructions do you have? A sword-bearing girl of about 12 or 13 years old in white garments hopped down from the hawk, ran up to Zhang Yao and sweetly asked. Zhang Yao looked at the sword-bearing girl and smiled slightly. Chan'er, you shall oversee their cultivation here for me. I need to step out for a bit. Of course. The sword-bearing girl nodded enthusiastically, then glanced curiously at Zhang Yao. Sister, where are you going? To 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Zhang Yao spoke softly. After a slight bout of dizziness, Yi Chen's consciousness returned to clarity. Looking up, he realized he was within an immense cave abode, hundreds of zhang high and more than 100 zhang wide. Where is this? Could this be the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode that voice mentioned? Yi Chen remembered the sudden voice that told him he had earned the right to enter the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode. Then, he had been seized by the gigantic palm of a 100 zhang tall three-eyed giant ape phantom. When he came to, he found himself in this vast cave abode. Correct. This place is the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode. A voice like thunder suddenly erupted within the cave abode, and Yi Chen looked towards the source of the voice, only to see a 100 zhang tall fiery ape suddenly appear and begin to speak. This immense fire ape, with fur blazing like flames and a third eye on its forehead, was strikingly similar to the phantom of the three-eyed giant ape that had grabbed Yi Chen, except the former was a phantom whereas the latter was very much real. You can talk. Yi Chen was astounded that the giant fire ape stood 100 zhang tall, and its ability to speak like a human added to his amazement. This talking 100 zhang tall ape, and this abrupt arrival in an unknown cave abode, all contributed to Yi Chen's sense of profound mystery. Chapter 29. The giant fire ape bowed its head and looked down at Yi Chen, I am the three-eyed ape king. Of course I can speak, young man. State your name, and from now on, just call me Ape Elder. Ape Elder, the junior is called Yi-chan. Yi as in leaf, Chan as in the stars. Yi-chan replied. This three-eyed giant ape, capable of speaking like humans and possessing 100-jong-tall body, and even more astonishing, the ability to fetch him from the 10,000 Beasts mountain to this place. These divine powers were simply more terrifying than any of the Spirit Sea realm cultivators that Yi-chan had heard of. May I know why the elder has brought Yi-chan here? Yi-chan looked at the three-eyed giant ape and asked aloud. The three-eyed giant ape's three divine eyes glanced at the vast cave abode, and then lowered its head to look at Yi-chan. You were able to comprehend the sword intent fragment I scattered and step into the sword intent realm, meeting the qualifications set by my master to enter the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode. So I brought you here. Sword intent fragment? Could it be that the fragment from before is yours, Ape Elder? Hearing the three-eyed giant ape mention the sword intent fragment, Yi-chan's heart stirred, remembering the scene where the broken sword fragment suddenly vibrated and shot away. That broken sword fragment had vibrated suddenly at the moment he fully comprehended the sword intent, and at the very instant the shattered piece flew off, was also when the phantom of the three-eyed giant ape descended. With that said, it was really possible that the broken sword fragment was related to this three-eyed giant ape. However, who is this master you speak of, Elder? And why did he allow me to enter this 1,000 Lotus Cave abode? After I stepped into the sword intent realm, Yi-chan had a myriad of questions in his heart. The three-eyed giant ape looked at Yi-chan and sighed deeply, as would a human. Since you have entered the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode, I will explain everything to you. My master was a strong cultivator from the heavenly saint realm born in the heavenly wind kingdom. This 1,000 Lotus Cave abode is what he left behind. Within this abode lies a tremendous legacy that only those with fate can obtain, the ape explained. My master asked me to find someone of fate, with the most basic condition being the comprehension of sword intent. Therefore, I shattered the 10 spiritual swords I once wielded into 1,001 sword intent fragments and scattered them across the heavenly wind kingdom. What you have obtained is one of these fragments. 1,001 sword intent fragments. Yi-chan gasped upon hearing that there were a total of 1,001 fragments, like the broken sword piece he encountered. He had only obtained one fragment, and it helped him comprehend sword intent. The three-eyed giant ape had scattered a total of 1,001 fragments. How powerful it must be! Of course, I prepared 1,001 fragments. Did you think my master's legacy would be so easy to obtain? The three-eyed giant ape huffed a little discontentedly. Even though I have scattered so many fragments in over 300 years, only 256 people qualified to enter the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode, and not a single one succeeded in obtaining my master's legacy. Moreover, among those trials, only 47 have successfully completed the Fire and Water Dao challenge in the Outer Mansion. Seeing Yi-chan's puzzled expression, the three-eyed giant ape explained, the 1,000 Lotus Cave abode is divided into an inner and outer mansion. There are 3 challenges in the outer mansion, all of which are conducted in the Fire and Water Dao. Only those who pass these 3 challenges are qualified to enter the inner mansion. And inside the inner mansion there are another 3 trials. Only by passing those can one ultimately obtain my master's legacy. Boom! While the three-eyed giant ape spoke, its enormous palm stretched out towards one side of the cave, slapping the air, and suddenly 2 circular entrances, each with a diameter of 10 meters, appeared in the wall. From one of these entrances poured endless flames, while from the other streamed a gentle blue water light. This is the trial area for the outer mansion, the Fire and Water Dao. The three-eyed giant ape pointed to the 2 circular entrances and spoke to Yi-chan. Fire and Water Dao are divided into 2 paths. Male cultivators take the path of fire, and female cultivators take the path of water. Only after passing through all 3 challenges in the paths can one pass the trial of the outer mansion. According to the master's rules, only a pair of male and female who have both successfully passed the Fire and Water Dao trials can enter the inner mansion together to face new trials. So, even if you pass the outer mansion trial, you cannot enter the inner mansion without a suitable companion. Hearing this rule, Yi-chun found it strange. He hadn't expected that not only did he have to challenge the Thousand Lotus Cave abode alone, but he also had to find a partner for the inner mansion. In that case, if one cannot wait for a suitable companion, doesn't that mean they can never enter the inner mansion? Yi-chun asked. The three-eyed giant ape nodded. Indeed, in these past 300 years, among the 47 people who have passed the outer mansion trial, only 36 have successfully paired up, forming 18 pairs to challenge the inner mansion. However, not a single one among these 18 pairs has succeeded. The remaining individuals, throughout the years they lived, never found suitable companions and, in the end, could not enter the inner mansion. However, the three-eyed giant ape looked at Yi-chun. Young lad Yi-chun, you're rather lucky. There's already a girl who has successfully passed the path of water and has been waiting for her partner. If you can overcome the path of fire, you could join her and proceed to the inner mansion together. A female cultivator has already passed the path of water? Yi-chun was taken aback. The three-eyed giant ape nodded. But whether you can enter the inner mansion with her as partners still depends on your skill. She has been waiting for 3 years, and during these 3 years 19 others have attempted the challenge, yet none have succeeded. I hope you won't become the 20th failure, causing the girl to miss another opportunity. All right, I have said all there is to say. Now, enter the path of fire and begin your trial. Acquiring the sword intent fragment is not an optional trial. Success or failure is all down to your destiny. Yi-chun, not one to hesitate, took a deep breath and stepped into the path of fire, within the fire and water Tao under the intense gaze of the three-eyed giant ape. Having gained benefits from the broken sword fragments, it was only right to follow the rules set by the master of this abode. Fire and water Tao, give it your all. Not long after he entered the fire and water Tao, a streak of escaping light flashed in, entering this expansive cave abode. The escaping light dissipated, revealing a girl dressed in light blue garments. This girl was none other than Jiang Yao, who had left the Taishan sect and was headed to the 10,000 Beasts Mountain. Ape Senior, has another come to try their hand at the Thousand Lotus Cave abode? Upon entering the cave abode, Jiang Yao, noticing the glowing light from the pathway of fire and water Tao, asked the three-eyed giant ape with a slight sparkle in her eyes. Yes, a youth has come. The three-eyed giant ape waved its massive hand, projecting a light screen in the air of the vast cave. On that screen, the figure of Yi-chun, who had just entered the path of fire, appeared. He's so young and has already comprehended the sword intent realm? Seeing Yi-chun's image on the screen, Jiang Yao was also slightly surprised. The 19 who came to challenge the Thousand Lotus Cave abode before were all of advanced age. The younger the age, the greater the potential. Little girl, perhaps this Yi-chun could truly become your partner, joining you in the challenges of the inner mansion, the three-eyed giant ape said. I hope so. A hint of expectation flickered in Jiang Yao's clear, large eyes. It's been 3 years, and I've yet to find a partner. I really want to see what the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode is like. Chapter 30 Fire Rune Chart. The challenge area of the outer abode of Thousand Lotus Cave abode. The fire and water Tao. As soon as Yi-chun stepped into the path of fire, he began to observe his surroundings. Looking around, Yi-chun found himself in a vast corridor that was more than 10 meters wide and tall, extending far into the distance. The corridor was flickering with flames, a deep red color pervading the area, and the heat was intense. It felt as though he had entered a fiery cavern. The 5 vortexes of true qi within Yi-chun's qi vibrated, and a green true qi immediately enveloped his body, forming a layer of protective true qi that slightly mitigated the scorching sensation. Boom! Just as Yi-chun had entered the corridor, a loud booming sound came from behind him. The entrance to the path of fire slammed shut, locking the way back completely. Ape said there are 3 challenges in the fire and water Tao, but I wonder what those 3 are. Yi-chun cautiously moved forward, continuously observing the corridor walls as he walked. His divine consciousness spread out, and he kept every change within 100 meters around him under control. After a short while, upon turning a corner, Yi-chun suddenly saw the path ahead blocked by a massive fire pattern. This fire pattern, towering more than 10 meters both in width and height, was immensely large, with countless lines and contours that emitted overwhelming brilliance. Standing beneath the huge pattern, Yi-chun felt even smaller than the lines themselves. Could this be the first test? And how should I pass it? Yi-chun examined the giant fire rune chart. Outside the fire and water Tao. As Yi-chun arrived at the fire rune chart, the three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao, who were observing Yi-chun's test through the half-sky screen of the abode, became more spirited. Yi-chun has finally reached the first challenge spot, the fire rune chart. The master of the abode set understanding sword intents as a condition for selecting an heir. Those who could comprehend sword intents were all individuals with outstanding talent. However, to be called a true powerhouse, talent alone is insufficient. These three tests of the outer abode are designed to evaluate these candidates' combat power, wit, and willpower, in addition to their talent. And this first challenge, the fire rune chart, is a test of combat power. Now we'll see if Yi-chun has enough combat power to move on to the second stage of the outer abode. All three eyes of the three-eyed giant ape were fixed on Yi-chun through the half-sky screen of the abode. Next to the ape, Jiang Yao's clear eyes were also fixed on Yi-chun. When I breached the path of water, the first challenge was the water pattern chart, and I remember killing all 108 water-armored warriors to break through that challenge. In these 3 years, the 19 who came here to face the challenge all breached the path of fire, dealing with the fire-armored warriors inside the fire rune chart. The most anyone has killed was 83, and the least was 45. I wonder how many Yi-chun will be able to kill. Having learned Yi-chun's name from the ape, Jiang Yao began to take an interest in this young man who might join her in breaching the inner mansion. While the three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao were focused on Yi-chun's test, as Yi-chun was sizing up the giant fire pattern, suddenly, thump, 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 spheres of fire burst from the giant fire rune chart, which upon hitting the ground, instantly transformed into warriors wielding swords and wearing fiery armor. With their fire armors gleaming, these suddenly appeared fire-armored warriors numbered 36. At the same time, a faint voice also echoed through the corridor, "Contender, to inherit my legacy within the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, you must kill at least 75 fire-armored warriors within this challenge. Fight now, use all of your strength, for the more fire-armored warriors you kill, the greater your reward will be. If you manage to kill all 108 fire-armored warriors, you will receive a special prize." This voice was deep and resonant, clearly not the thunderous voice of the three-eyed giant ape. The legacy within the Thousand Lotus Cave abode? Could the owner of this voice be the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode? No sooner had Yi-chun thought this than the 36 fire-armored warriors that had appeared rushed towards him with a war cry. True Chi fifth layer realm? The same as my true Chi realm. With his divine consciousness, Yi-chun analyzed his surroundings as the fire-armored warriors charged at him. In a flash, he deduced their realm from the aura they exuded. Boom! At this moment, the first fire-armored warrior had already charged at Yi-chun. With a punch, Yi-chun unleashed a vast amount of true Chi directly at the fire-armored warrior's body. With a loud boom, the fire-armored warrior was sent flying backwards from Yi-chun's punch and exploded. These fire-armored warriors were apparently spawned with reference to Yi-chun's true Chi realm, but they lacked Yi-chun's various techniques and were clearly no match for a single move from him. Yi-chun's combat power was now so formidable that not to mention a person at the 5th level of the true Chi realm, even someone at the 7th level would be easily pierced through by him if they didn't possess powerful techniques like his sword intent. Just as Yi-chun's divine thoughts stirred, preparing to completely annihilate the remaining 35 5th-level true Chi fire-armored warriors, the one he had previously blasted to pieces reformed into a ball of fire and shot back at him. This ball of fire couldn't be blocked and directly entered Yi-chun's body. finally merging into his Qi Si. The true Qi in Yi Chen's Qi Si suddenly increased by a fraction. Could it be that these fire-armored warriors are made from true Qi? Killing them allows their true Qi to enter my body directly. Feeling nothing but an increase in the true Qi within his body, Yi Chen's heart stirred, and he recalled the low, thick voice from before. The more fire-armored warriors you kill, the greater your reward will be. If you can kill all 108 fire-armored warriors, you will receive a special reward. Eyeing the fire-armored warriors charging at him, Yi Chen saw them as bunches of refined heaven and earth true Qi, and a sharp light burst forth from his eyes. If that's the case, then I'll strive to kill all 108 fire-armored warriors. In an instant, the 5 great true Qi whirlpools within Yi Chen's body violently shook, and countless strands of Saiyan true Qi swept out, turning into a flurry of sharp arrows in the air that shot towards the remaining 35 fire-armored warriors. Thwack! 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 The sky full of true Qi arrows flashed with a cross-shaped brilliance, instantly penetrating 35 cross-shaped holes in the foreheads of the 35 fire-armored warriors. Subsequently, with continuous boom, 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 boom sounds, the 35 fire-armored warriors left in the corridor exploded all at once in that instant. All were shot dead by Yi Chen. All turned into balls of fire, rushing towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen's move was none other than the cross-rapid kill sword skills controlled with sword intent. With the sword intent enhancing the cross-rapid kill sword skills, they were utterly unstoppable. These 5th-level true Qi fire-armored warriors had no chance of resisting. Outside the fire and water Dao, after Yi Chen had instantly killed all 36 fire-armored warriors, the 3-eyed giant ape nodded in approval. Reaching the 5th level of the true Qi realm and comprehending the major achievement level of a mid-tier yellow-ranked sword technique, along with sword intent, indeed, his combat power is not bad. However, if those are all the techniques he has, the next batch of fire-armored warriors will be troublesome. Jiang Yao's face also tensed. The next 36 fire-armored warriors will have their strength directly surge to the level of Yi Chen's power when he faced the previous batch. He must still have some techniques up his sleeve. Besides, there's a 3rd batch of fire-armored warriors that will be even more formidable. When they attack in a group, layer upon layer, many have fallen at the hands of these 3 batches of warriors. I wonder how many more techniques Yi Chen has. The 3-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao began to worry about the battles ahead for Yi Chen. Meanwhile, Yi Chen, having absorbed another 35 balls of fire true Qi, not only fully recovered the true Qi he had expended, but also gained quite a bit more. His fighting spirit, like the firelight in the corridor, was blazing fiercely. Come on! Bring on the next batch of fire-armored warriors. As his fighting spirit ignited, 36 fiery orbs burst forth from the fire rune chart. These fiery orbs, once they touched the ground, turned into 36 fire-armored warriors, just as before. However, this time the aura emanating from the fire-armored warriors was much stronger than before. With the 36 moving in unison, even the air currents became subtly tumultuous. These fire-armored warriors had reached the level of understanding sword intent. No sooner had the fire-armored warriors landed than they charged at Yi Chen with swords ablaze, executing the same cross-rapid kill sword skills that Yi Chen had used earlier. These fire-armored warriors were capable of instantly comprehending the sword technique and sword intent that Yi Chen had previously used, which was nothing short of miraculous. Indeed, the fire rune chart that gave birth to these fire-armored warriors must be an inconceivably magical artifact. Chapter 31 Kill. 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 Another 36 fire-armored warriors. The cross-rapid kill sword skills endowed with sword intent. It's indeed the combat power means I used when killing the first batch of fire-armored warriors. Yi Chen watched the second batch of fire-armored warriors charging towards him, and with a slight shift in his gaze, he instantly comprehended the examination method of this first challenge. To pass this challenge, I must kill a total of 75 fire-armored warriors. In the previous round, I have already slain 36. I need to kill 39 more, meaning if I wish to pass, all 36 warriors from this batch must be killed too. Moreover, I don't just want to pass. The cave abode master mentioned that by killing all 108 fire-armored warriors, I would receive a special reward. Considering how mystical this cave abode is, the reward it offers is certainly no ordinary item. I must strive to kill all 108 fire-armored warriors and secure that special reward. Yi Chen's eyes, gazing at the fire-armored warriors shooting towards him like lightning, burst forth with intense combat desire. No matter what, all 36 fire-armored warriors from this batch must die. Boom! In an instant, Yi Chen's body burst forth, his yellow-class intermediate movement technique, startling goose steps, exploding out as he directly shot towards one of the fire-armored warriors. Swordsmanship, sword intent. Swordsmanship is the technique of martial skills, whereas sword intent is the realm means of utilizing these martial skill techniques. My sword intent, obtained through comprehending the basis of torrential rain sword skills, aims directly at the origin of the torrential rain sword skills, transforming all things into a torrential rain, obliterating everything. Although both the cross-rapid kill sword skills and torrential rain sword skills are swift sword techniques, my sword intent, when used with torrential rain sword skills, is the most apt. How could cross-rapid kill sword skills augmented with sword intent possibly compare with my torrential rain sword skills enhanced by sword intent? Torrential rain, annihilation strike. Yi Chen, who was speeding toward a fire-armored warrior, instantly dodged the attacks of the other warriors. With a flick of his fingers, thousands of strands of true qi burst forth, turning into a drop of torrential rain that pierced through everything, aiming straight at the fire-armored warrior he had set his sights on. Fast! 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 This droplet of true qi storm rain, truly endowed with the annihilating essence of torrential rain, was unbelievably fast, having already surpassed the speed limit of cross-rapid kill sword skills. The fire-armored warrior that was utilizing cross-rapid kill sword skills and charging at Yi Chen hadn't even launched an attack when the droplet of true qi storm rain released by Yi Chen already flew in front of the warrior's head. The power of the torrential rain annihilation strike, breaking through everything, this droplet of sword rain pierced directly through the fire-armored warrior's head. The terrifying momentum of the rain violently erupted. A loud bang completely shattered the head of the fire-armored warrior. Bang! The fire-armored warrior exploded on the spot, turning into a ball of fire light true qi. The 37th fire-armored warrior. Dead. Again. Kill. 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 Yi Chen did not bother with the fire light true qi that had entered his body. Surrounded by fire-armored warriors, there was no time for other thoughts. His entire focus was concentrated on the remaining 35 fire-armored warriors. Kill! 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 With each leap Yi Chen took, a droplet of true qi storm rain blasted out, instantly obliterating a fire-armored warrior into nothingness. 38. 39. 40. Moments later, the second batch of fire-armored warriors in the corridor had been nearly wiped out. And Yi Chen, having more room to maneuver, didn't hesitate at all. Millions of strands of true qi burst from within his body, forming into more than a dozen droplets of true qi storm rain. Torrential rain filling the skies. Group killing skills. This time, the sky-filled torrential rain corresponded to one fire-armored warrior each. The last 13 fire-armored warriors die. Yi Chen stood still, while the 13 droplets of true qi storm rain he had unleashed shot out wildly, instantly piercing through the last 13 fire-armored warriors. Bang! 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 Inside the corridor, 13 fire-armored warriors exploded simultaneously, turning into 13 spheres of fire-light true qi. Next, this large mass of fire-light true qi surged towards Yi Chen's body. Yi Chen's meridians opened wide, and the true qi vortex in his qi sea trembled slightly as he absorbed the huge mass of fire-light true qi into the vortex, replenishing the true qi he had expended. Having killed 72 fire-armored warriors, the absorbed fire-light true qi has brought me to the pinnacle of the 5th layer of true qi. At this moment, the 5 true qi vortices inside Yi Chen had swelled to their maximum, ready to break through to the 6th layer of true Qi. Just 36 more fire-armored warriors to go. Upon killing all of them, I will be able to completely advance into the 6th layer of true Qi. Yichun looked at the massive fire rune chart on the corridor's ceiling. His mind and spirit intensely stirred. Storm Rain Sword Intent. So the insight he has comprehended is the Storm Rain Sword Intent. Watching Yichun swiftly annihilate another 36 fire-armored warriors in mere moments, the three-eyed giant ape nodded its head in approval. Kill 3 more, and he'll pass the first trial of the Outer Mansion. Now, he has already unleashed Torrential Rain Sword Intent, yet it remains to be seen if he has any other means to deal with the subsequent 36 fire-armored warriors. According to the Fire Rune Chart laws forged by the Master, the 3rd wave of fire-armored warriors will each be capable of unleashing Storm Rain Sword Intent, just like he just did. The 2nd wave of fire-armored warriors usually forces the challenger to reveal their strongest abilities. But the 3rd wave represents the true test. Excelling in defeating the 2nd wave feels gratifying, but without other methods, one would easily fail against the 3rd wave of fire-armored warriors. The three-eyed giant ape greatly looked forward to Yichun's performance in the upcoming challenge. Torrential Rain Sword Intent? Jiang Yao's eyes brightened as she watched the true Qi Storm Rain instantly slay the fire-armored warrior before Yichun. His sword intent is somewhat similar to the Purple Lightning Sword Intent I've comprehended. Sword techniques are derived from all things in nature, while sword intents return to the origin of all things. Torrential Rain Sword Intent captures the essence of rain's rapid descent, just as my Purple Lightning Sword Intent is about the flickering of lightning's glow. However, when I faced the path of water, I also comprehended a movement technique called Purple Lightning Wings, which allowed me to slay all 108 water-armored warriors. I wonder if he has any other means to confront the last wave of 36 fire-armored warriors. The young girl furrowed her beautiful brows, her gaze returning to Yichun. The final 36 fire-armored warriors. Yichun's eyes sparkled as he watched 36 fiery light clusters shoot out from the giant fire pattern for the 3rd time, transforming into 36 fire-armored warriors. This time, they'll probably all use true Qi Storm Rain, won't they? Then let's have a true contest of strength. From the 2nd wave of fire-armored warriors, Yichun learned the trial rules of the giant fire pattern. Nonetheless, he did not hesitate to unleash his full Torrential Rain Sword Intent. What he wanted was to engage in a genuine battle with the powerful 3rd wave of fire-armored warriors. Only in a true test of strength could he truly evaluate his ultimate combat power. Fire-armored warriors, born of true Qi fire orbs, possess great strength but are lifeless. However, they have one advantage: their overwhelming numbers. And I have not only sword intent but also the primordial star scripture, which they have never cultivated. We each have our advantages and disadvantages. It's time for a real battle. Come fort. Yichun's heart surged with fighting spirit. The last 36 fire-armored warriors had already turned their swords into 36 drops of torrential rain, shooting towards him from all directions. A sky filled with swords, a sky roaring with death. The very strategy Yichun once used against others was now one he had to contend with. Even if it's a torrential downpour, there are still gaps. What I need is to weave through those gaps. Boom! At that moment, Yichun no longer held anything back. His Qi force, 8 extraordinary meridians, and 33 meridian wheels all opened at once, and his control over his surroundings reached an inconceivable level. Each sword of the torrential rain aimed at him was anticipated in his predictions. And at the same time, the 5 great true Qi vortices within Yichun's body shook furiously, unleashing countless strands of azure true Qi. Between his fingers, a dazzling silver-white energy began to converge. This was indeed the Gang Yuan true Qi he had refined from cultivating the Gang Yuan mantra of the primordial star scripture. Now, in this final battle, he finally used the Gang Yuan true Qi. Gang Yuan true Qi, as described by the Gang Yuan mantra of the primordial star scripture, is much more formidable than heaven and earth true Qi. Now was the time to test the true power of Gang Yuan true Qi.
Gong Yuan torrential rain.
Boom! Facing the onslaught of 7 fire-armored warriors and their true chi storm rain, Yi Chen's hand shone with silver brilliance. In an instant, his finger became like a sword, and the silver energy on it like an unrivaled sword light. Amidst the flickering light, the sword light formed by Yi Chen's finger clashed with the swords of the 7 fire-armored warriors' storm rain. In the blinding light, Yi Chen's finger-turned sword actually sliced through all 7 fiery arrows in an instant. And there was more. The bursting silver radiance suddenly expanded, tracing a dazzling silver arc that immediately bisected all 7 fire-armored warriors. With one move, 7 fire-armored warriors fell. The Gang Yuan True Chi was powerfully overwhelming. Faced with the same level of martial skills and sword intents, the Heaven and Earth True Chi stood no chance against Gang Yuan True Chi. What? What kind of martial skill is this? Outside the fire and water Dao, both the three-eyed giant ape and Zhang Yao were visibly shaken upon seeing Yi Chun slay 7 fire-armored warriors in one move. The third wave of fire-armored warriors was the toughest challenge. In previous trials, challengers found it extremely difficult to slay even one of this final batch of warriors. Otherwise, it wouldn't be said that slaying 3 fire-armored warriors in the third wave was enough to pass the trial. Now, Yi Chun had slain 7 in the third wave with a single move, taking the total number of fire-armored warriors he had killed to 79, surpassing the required number to pass. Watching Yi Chun spring forth with arms wide as if a tiger leaping into a flock of sheep, towards the third wave of fire-armored warriors, Zhang Yao felt a surge of emotion for the first time. This young man named Yi Chun might indeed be the one who would accompany her into the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Chapter 32 Wind Thunder Movement. Gang Yuan True Chi. So this is the power of Gang Yuan True Chi. Yi Chun, having killed 7 fire-armored warriors with a single move, was also overwhelmed with excitement. The surging emotions prompted him to let out a long howl within the path of fire. The long howl, stimulated by true chi, reverberated, swirling and echoing non-stop within the entire corridor. There was a time when he was nothing more than a nominal disciple at Qingyun sect, bullied by others. Now, with the help of meridian refining art and Gang Yuan mantra from the primordial star scripture, he had grown to such an extent. Even the mighty fire-armored warriors could be slain by him in one move. Come, the last 29 fire-armored warriors. Yi Chen's eyes shone with extraordinary brightness. Having confirmed the true might of Gang Yuan True Chi, he was absolutely certain that he could annihilate all the fire-armored warriors. With a perfect score, he would breach the first trial of the Fire and Water Dao at the outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. He spread his arms wide and flew straight into the midst of the fire-armored warriors. Dazzling silver aura burst forth again, drawing brilliant arcs within the entire corridor of the path of fire. Sword unleashed. Bodies severed. Heads fell. Within the corridor, the fire-armored warriors were continuously chopped down and exploded. The surging flame light orbs frantically rushed into Yi Chen's body. And amidst the flame orbs, the green true chi, along with the radiant silver Gang Yuan shining, Yi Chun reached a truly exhilarating level of combat feeling. His blood boiled, and the true chi vortex within him churned relentlessly. Boom! 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 The moment the last 3 fire-armored warriors were killed, Yi Chun, standing in the Fire and Water Dao corridor, was steaming with heat, like an invincible war god, emitting an awe-inspiring aura. Bang! 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 At the same time, as Yi Chun absorbed the massive flame orb true chi from the last 36 fire-armored warriors, the true chi vortex inside him began a new expansion and transformation. The 5 true chi vortices expanded rapidly, and when they expanded to a certain limit, the 6th true chi vortex was born. 6 vortices, the 6th layer of true chi. After the events at Silent Ridge, the great battle with the silver-veined snake demon at Mirror Lake, the life and death battle with Zhou Hai in the Unnamed Valley, and entering the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, Yi Chun had finally reached a new realm, breaking through to the 6th layer of the True Chi realm. 12 layers of the True Chi realm, and I've finally reached the halfway point. At the 6th layer of the true Qi realm, with my current strength, I can return to Qingyun's sect with absolute confidence to become an outer sect disciple. There was an indomitable confidence in Yi Chen's eyes. Just as Yi Chen successfully killed all the fire-armored warriors and smoothly advanced to the 6th layer of the true Qi realm, the giant fire pattern that had blocked his path suddenly dispersed, revealing the way forward once again. As the giant fire pattern dispersed, 2 orbs of light flew out from the fire pattern and hovered in the void. The deep and sonorous voice echoed once more in the corridor. "Congratulations, Challenger, for you have successfully killed all 108 fire-armored warriors. As I said before, you will receive a special reward. These 2 manuals are your special reward. I hope you will comprehend them thoroughly." At these words, the 2 orbs floating in the void slowly approached Yi Chen and finally landed in his hands. 2 manuals? Yi Chen was curious as he looked at the 2 orbs in his hands. As the light of the orbs dissipated, 2 ancient-looking books were revealed. One of the books bore the title Wind Thunder Sword Skills, and the other was titled Wind Thunder Movement. Wind Thunder Sword Skills? Wind Thunder Movement? Yi Chen flipped through the books, looking at the introduction to these 2 cultivation techniques within. At that glance, his heart began to race with excitement. Thousand Lotus Cave Abode is indeed a mysterious and powerful abode. The giant fire pattern that could manifest fire-armored warriors already evidences its extraordinariness. I had surmised that the special rewards would be extraordinary, but I never imagined they would be so precious. In the introductions of these 2 booklets, it is clearly written what grade these 2 sets of manuals belong to. The Wind Thunder Sword Skills are upper-grade Xian class cultivation techniques, comprising 3 major subsidiary swordsmanship techniques, named Wind Sword Skills, Thunder Sword Skills, and Joint Attack Sword Skills. Merely the Wind Sword Skills themselves surpass Yellow class upper-grade cultivation techniques, reaching the level of Xian class lower-grade cultivation techniques. If all 3 subsidiary swordsmanship techniques are fully cultivated, this complete set of swordsmanship would directly be at the upper-grade Xian class cultivation technique level. Heaven and Earth, the 4 great grades of cultivation techniques. The reward from the first trial of Thousand Lotus Cave Abode's outer mansion surpassed Yellow class techniques, reaching the level of Xian class techniques, and is even the most precious upper-grade Xian class cultivation technique. Yi Chen was overjoyed. Not only that, the second manual was equally extraordinary. Wind Thunder Movement, an upper-grade Xian class movement technique, designed to complement the Wind Thunder Sword Skills, likewise comprises 3 major subsidiary movement techniques: Wind Movement Skills, Thunder Movement Skills, and Wind Thunder Wings. Among them, Wind Movement Skills are of lower-grade Xian class movement techniques, Thunder Movement Skills are of middle-grade Xian class, and Wind Thunder Wings is the final step, which upon successful cultivation, truly completes this upper-grade Xian class movement technique. When Yi Chen saw the introduction to Wind Thunder Wings, his breathing tensed up. According to the manual, successfully cultivating the Wind Thunder Wings would allow one to transform true Qi into wings, soaring in the sky like a giant bird with speed as swift as whirlwinds, as fast as startling thunder. This, undoubtedly, was a flight divine ability only Spirit Sea realm powerhouses could possess. Yet this set of Wind Thunder movement techniques was capable of achieving it. To fly in the sky is the dream of countless martial artists. Now, Yi Chen had the opportunity to realize this dream. During my encounter with the fire-armored warrior, I felt that the Yellow class middle-grade movement technique, Startling Goose Steps, was somewhat insufficient. Now, I finally obtained a new movement technique, and it's such a powerful upper-grade Xian class movement technique. Wind Thunder Movement, mighty as wind and thunder. One day, I will use Wind Thunder Wings to soar among the skies. Yi Chen carefully stowed away the 2 manuals close to his body and continued striding towards the pathway of the Path of Fire. The test of the first challenge of Thousand Lotus Cave Abode had been passed, and the unknown second challenge still awaited him ahead. I wonder what reward Yi Chen received from the cultivation techniques? Jiang Yao watched Yi Chen, who had tucked away the manuals and was heading deeper into fire and water Dao, her delicate face revealing a slight smile with 2 shallow dimples, utterly charming. This contestant had performed so perfectly in the first challenge, giving her a pleasant surprise. This kind of delight she had never felt with the previous 19 contenders who had come to face the challenges of Thousand Lotus Cave Abode. When I passed this challenge myself, I received a set of true chi breathing secret method and a set of flight combat skills. It was with the aid of these two manuals that I managed to attempt to break into Spirit Sea Realm at the age of 16. Perhaps before long, Yichen too will, like me, successfully step into the Spirit Sea Realm, thought Jiang Yao in her heart. Meanwhile, the three-eyed giant ape, watching Yichen head towards the second challenge of the Path of Fire, also revealed a rare smile. To receive the special reward left by the master's clone, this youth is indeed extraordinary. In these past 300 years, less than 10 have received the special reward. In recent years, other than the little girl by my side, this youth is the first to gain such an award. I'm truly looking forward to seeing if he can make it through the next two challenges and join this little girl in visiting the inner mansion. Speaking of which, it has been a long time since I have seen that old bird demon in charge of the inner mansion. I do miss it. The three-eyed giant ape's gaze passed through the deep corridor, looking towards the endless depths of Thousand Lotus Cave Abode, with myriad thoughts flashing through its mind. Is this the place for the second challenge? After walking in the corridor for the time it takes an incense stick to burn, the path ahead was once again obstructed. This time, Yichen was not blocked by the huge pattern of firelight from before but a piece of jade that was smooth as a mirror. Standing before the jade, Yichen's own reflection could be seen distinctly in it. What kind of challenge will this jade set? As Yichen thought to himself, a voice came through. Contestant, congratulations on smoothly passing the first challenge and arriving at the second challenge. Mirror Light Spirit Wall. This voice was unmistakably the same deep and resonant voice that had rewarded him with the Wind Thunder Sword skills and Wind Thunder movement techniques. Chapter 33. Observing Martial Arts Through the Mirror and the Jade Disc. The deep and resonant voice continued. The first trial, Fire Rune Chart, tested your combat ability. This second trial, Mirror Light Spirit Wall, will test your enlightenment. Enlightenment? Yichen was slightly startled. Over these years, whenever a challenger arrived at this trial, I would demonstrate a cultivation technique for them to observe. After I have demonstrated the technique once, the challenger has 3 days to comprehend the cultivation technique I demonstrated. Within 3 days, if the challenger can perform this set of techniques in front of the Jade Wall to the required standard, the Mirror Light Spirit Wall will open the passageway forward, allowing them to enter the final trial of the Thousand Lotus Cave Abode's outer abode. The voice paused for a moment, then continued, Challenger, at the first trial, you successfully obtained the special rewards Wind Thunder Sword skills and the Wind Thunder movement technique. Therefore, I will specifically demonstrate these two sets of techniques for you within the Mirror Light Jade Wall. After my demonstration, 9 faint lines will appear in the Mirror Light Jade Wall. If you can illuminate any 3 of those lines by practicing these 2 sets of techniques, you will pass this trial. Challenger, I must particularly remind you that in order to light up 3 lines, you must at least cultivate 1 sub-technique from either of these 2 sets of techniques to a minor level of mastery within 3 days. The 2 techniques Yichen had acquired, Wind Thunder Sword skills and Wind Thunder movement, were both of the Profound Class Superior grade level, and even the sub-techniques within them reached the level of Profound Class Inferior grade techniques. To cultivate one of the Profound Class Inferior grade techniques to a minor level of mastery within 3 days was an extremely high demand on a challenger's enlightenment and could be said to be immensely difficult. Keep in mind, even yellow class techniques, which are much easier compared to Profound Class techniques, take many people over a month to cultivate to a minor level of mastery. 3 days to cultivate a Profound Class technique to a minor level of mastery, in terms of enlightenment, would definitely qualify as a genius. This degree of difficulty did not intimidate Yichen. In fact, he became somewhat excited. This voice must be that of the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave Abode. He said he would demonstrate Wind Thunder Sword skills and the Wind Thunder movement technique within the Mirror Light Jade Wall. Does that mean I will soon see the true visage of the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave Abode? Yi-chan was exceedingly curious about the existence that even the 100-foot-tall three-eyed giant ape would call master. Such a powerful figure personally demonstrating techniques to him was something impossible to achieve in a sect. Yi-chan was incredibly excited to see what the wind-thunder sword skills and wind-thunder movement technique would look like when demonstrated by the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Challenger, I will only demonstrate these two sets of techniques once. Watch carefully. As the voice faded, the immense mirror-light jade wall suddenly emitted a startling light. Within the light, it seemed as though a world unfolded, revealing a realm of drifting fog and mist, and within this realm, a Saiyan figure stood with his hands behind his back in the void. Is this the figure of the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode? All of Yi-chan's attention was fixated on the figure standing in the void within the Jade Wall's realm. This was a somewhat slender, middle-aged scholar. He was wearing a Saiyan robe, his hands clasped behind him as he proudly stood facing the misty sea of clouds between heaven and earth, his eyes alight with infinite wisdom, as if capable of piercing through everything in this realm. When he saw this figure, the three-eyed giant ape outside the fire and water Dao excitedly screamed, "Master, Master!" The master normally shows only a shadow when demonstrating techniques for those challengers, and you can't see his face at all. Only this little girl in front of me got to see the master's face last time. I didn't expect that this time, this young man would actually make the master appear in full. I haven't seen the master's full figure for so many years. It's been over 300 years. Master, I've finally seen you again. The 100-jong-tall three-eyed giant ape, looking at the figure of the middle-aged scholar displayed on the light screen, actually let huge teardrops roll down one after the other. Zhang Yao's eyes also revealed an expression of boundless admiration. The owner of Thousand Lotus Cave abode is said to be a legendary cultivator from the Heavenly Saint Realm. Heavenly Saint Realm, that's a supreme realm that surpasses the True Chi Realm, Spirit Sea Realm, and Rotating Pill Realm. Even my master, Fairy Jia Luo, has not cultivated to the Heavenly Saint Realm. It's said that there are currently no cultivators of the Heavenly Saint Realm level in the entire Heavenly Wind Kingdom. But who knows what happened to him? He only left behind this Thousand Lotus Cave abode here, along with the Demon King that followed him. Yi-chan was completely oblivious to the feelings of the three-eyed giant ape outside the fire and water Dao and Zhang Yao. His entire focus had merged with the mirror light spirit wall, and even the meridians throughout his body had opened up one after another, mobilizing all his observational power to look into the Jade Wall. Because inside the mirror light Jade Wall, the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, the figure of the middle-aged scholar, had begun to practice the wind-thunder sword skills and the movement technique, wind-thunder movement. The mirror light Jade Wall, the ethereal sky amidst the drifting clouds. The green silhouette standing in the void finally lowered his hands from behind his back, and with a grasp into the empty air with his right hand, a green long sword instantly appeared in his palm. The green figure glanced at the sword in his hand and, after 3 breaths, finally raised his head. Just as he lifted his head, the long hair trailing behind him rose without any wind, and his entire aura surged as if a divine sword had finally been unsheathed. It's starting. Yi-chan stared intently at the green silhouette, watching his every move. As the sword intent and aura reached its peak, the whole figure took a step into the void, and in an instant, fierce winds raged between heaven and earth, with the sound of thunder faintly audible. Then, his sword, together with his entire being, turned into a hurricane. That hurricane was precisely the circulation of the hurricane frenzy, the first form of the wind sword skills, which is part of the thunder sword skills, 3 major subsidiary sword techniques. When this hurricane circulation reached its ultimate point, instantly, the green silhouette reappeared, and this time his swordsmanship changed. It was as if a gentle breeze swept across the land, far milder and less violent than the preceding hurricane, yet it made countless trees on the ground sway wildly. This was precisely the second form of wind sword skills, the 13 wind strips. Following Hurricane Frenzy and 13 wind strips, the green figure transformed yet again, each form of wind sword skills flowing effortlessly from his hands. By the end, Yi Chun felt that this figure had become a breeze between heaven and earth, demonstrating every aspect of the wind's meaning. Until all 9 forms of wind sword skills had been practiced, the vision of the green silhouette practicing in the void lingered in Yi Chen's mind. And the green figure didn't stop there. His aura shifted, and he began to practice the thunder sword skills from the wind thunder sword skills, wind sword skills, thunder sword skills, until the final combined sword technique. Countless techniques, each infused with boundless meaning, and even with all his focus, Yi Chun couldn't capture their full essence. In the end, he even felt that the figure was not merely demonstrating the wind thunder sword skills, but was explaining to him a profound Tao of martial cultivation. Ineffably profound. Chapter 34 The Great Tremor. Yi Chun sat cross-legged beneath the mirror light spirit wall. The Thousand Lotus Cave abode owner's azure figure shifted and transformed endlessly in the reflections of the mirror wall. When the entire repertoire of the wind thunder sword skills was completed, the final move, wind and thunder change, of the azure figure's sword combined strike of wind and thunder caused 3 peals of thunderous blasts directly within the mirror wall's world. Boom! 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 These 3 thunderous blasts were as if the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode had tapped Yi Chun on the head 3 times with the azure long sword in his hand. In an instant, the endless fog in Yi Chun's mind was blown apart by these 3 peals of thunder, and a remarkable enlightenment instantly suffused his entire mind. Wind sword skills. Thunder sword skills. Wind and thunder combined strike sword skills. This is swordsmanship, as well as the essence of the sword path, the essence of the wind and thunder sword path. The owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode isn't just demonstrating sword skills to me. He is clearly imparting the essence of wind and thunder. Yi Chen's eyes suddenly burst with endless brilliance, and although the azure figure had ceased moving, he seemed to still see a phantom in the mirror wall, endlessly shifting its techniques, still seeing the wind, seeing the thunder. Even when the azure figure resumed practicing the second technique, wind-thunder movement, the marvelous phantom of wind and thunder in the mirror wall and the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode's azure figure seemed to merge together completely. 2 techniques could actually merge completely in their essence. I understand now. Be it wind-thunder sword skills or wind-thunder movement, both encompass the essence of wind and thunder. I fear these 2 techniques are evolved by the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, from the essence of wind and thunder. Practicing these 2 techniques, if one starts from the very essence of wind and thunder, there might be incredible gains. In the end, Yi Chun was no longer watching the azure figure practicing techniques in the mirror wall. He had closed his eyes. Although he had closed his eyes, his mind was filled with the howling of wind and the roaring of thunder, and the countless techniques demonstrated by the azure figure sped through his mind, finally merging miraculously. Even when the azure figure had completed both techniques and disappeared from the mirror light spirit wall, leaving 9 dimly lit assessment lines on the wall, Yi Chun did not open his eyes. He has received enlightenment. Outside the fire and water Tao, the 3-eyed giant ape, seeing Yi Chun suddenly close his eyes, spoke softly. He has probably gained great insight. At this moment, Jiang Yao, observing Yi Chun, had her eyes shining even more brightly. I wonder how many of the 9 dim lines on the mirror light spirit wall he will be able to illuminate. Lighting up 3 lines would allow him to pass this level, but I feel that he could illuminate at least 6, maybe even 7 lines. The 3-eyed giant ape speculated in his heart. According to what Senior Ape has said, in over 300 years, the most anyone has ever lit up on this level is 8 lines. When I challenged the path of water, I equaled the record of 8 lines. But why do I feel that Yi Chun could possibly break this record? Jiang Yao thought as she looked at the tranquil Yi Chun sitting below the mirror light spirit wall. She had never seen anyone who could enter a state of enlightenment so quickly and remain so composed upon observing the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode demonstrate movement techniques. Not even herself back in her day. In the middle of the fire and water Tao, beneath the mirror light spirit wall. Under the watchful eyes of the 3-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao, Yi-chun sat quietly. 1 day, 2 days. As the end of the 3-day reflection period drew closer, the eyes of the three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao grew brighter and brighter. The longer the contemplation, the greater the potential gains. Finally, just as the 3-day period was about to expire, Yi-chun, who was sitting in meditation, suddenly opened his eyes. In the instant he opened his eyes, two wondrous lights flashed across them. Had the three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao been in the midst of the fire and water Tao, they would have realized that these two lights were infused with the endless charm of wind and thunder. It was as if, in that moment, wind and thunder had shot directly into Yi-chun's eyes. The now wide-awake Yi-chun immediately stood up and walked to the base of the mirror light spirit wall. He's going to start practicing techniques now. We will soon know how many lines he can illuminate. Both the three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao felt their hearts tighten. Whoosh! Yi-chun, standing beneath the mirror light spirit wall, stretched out his hand, and countless strands of green chi transformed directly into a green longsword in his palm. It was exactly as the Thousand Lotus Cave abode's previous owner had suddenly produced a green longsword in his hands within the mirror light spirit wall. Whoosh! Yi-chun, holding the longsword, didn't start practicing the fixed moves of the wind thunder sword skills or the wind thunder movement. Instead, he simply swung the longsword at the mirror light spirit wall. Boom! 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 In that single slash, the 9 dim lines in the mirror light spirit wall lit up simultaneously in the blink of an eye, emitting an unrivaled radiance. This unrivaled radiance illuminated the entirety of the path of fire so brightly. 9 lines. Passing the second challenge of the outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode required lighting up 3 lines, but Yi-chun had lit up all 9 lines in a single move. This was simply a miracle that had not occurred in over 300 years of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. How is this possible? Outside in the fire and water Tao, the three-eyed giant ape even leaped up in the moment the 9 lines lit up together, its thunderous hopping shaking the entire main hall of the outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. It had anticipated that Yi-chun's understanding following contemplation would be impressive, but never had it imagined that Yi-chun's achievement would reach such a level. All 9 lines simultaneously illuminated. This was directly the strongest performance in the history of the second challenge of the outer mansion. This was simply unheard of. 3 days of contemplation, and he lit up all 9 lines. Could it be that he met the master's highest requirement and cultivated both sets of techniques to great accomplishment? Impossible, absolutely impossible. The 2 sets of cultivation techniques he received are both top-grade mystical methods. It's definitely not possible for him to cultivate both to great accomplishment in 3 days. Could it be that he has discerned the true purpose behind the master setting this challenge and directly comprehended the sentiment behind the techniques? The three-eyed giant ape's 3 divine eyes turned towards Yi-chun in the fire and water Tao, filled with shock and disbelief. As the guardian of the outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, the three-eyed giant ape knew better than anyone the purpose of its master setting this challenge. The second challenge of the outer mansion was a test of comprehension. It was meant to probe and assess the solver's insight. Its master's decision to demonstrate the techniques to those being tested was not as simple as merely explaining the moves. Having the solvers mimic and internalize the moves was too basic. The essence and underlying sentiment of the demonstrated techniques, that was what truly mattered, and that was what truly tested one's insight. If the solvers could fully perceive all of this, only then would they truly demonstrate their unique comprehension. Regrettably, among those who had entered the second challenge over the past 300 years, very few had recognized this. The sentiment, it must be the sentiment. This Yi-chun is truly a genius. Jiang Yao, watching the 9 lines in the mirror light spirit wall brilliantly light up, revealed endless brilliance in her clear eyes. Initially, when I received the cultivation technique rewarded by the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, I also began by following the demonstration of moves provided by the owner during this comprehension challenge. It wasn't until a day later that I suddenly realized that the comprehension challenge couldn't merely be about practicing the technique. Even pushing oneself to the limit wouldn't achieve much in 3 days. What truly proved one's insight was likely the sentiment behind the technique. Only by grasping the essence of the sentiment could one truly assert their exceptional insight. Therefore, during the remaining 2 days, I focused solely on understanding the sentiment of the flight combat skill I had received, and it was because I grasped the sentiment that I managed to light up 8 lines in the mirror light spirit wall in the end. Now, Yi-Chun has directly lit up all 9 lines. Doesn't this mean that he didn't take any detours and realized the owner's intention right from the start, directly grasping the sentiment? In the first challenge, at the Fire Rune chart, Yi-Chun's combat power already earned my respect. Now, at the second challenge, by the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, his comprehension has left me utterly astonished. If he succeeds in the third challenge, a test of willpower, Zhang Yao's clear eyes gazed at Yi-Chun in front of the Mirror Light Spirit Wall. Then he, Yi-Chun, as a companion who will step into the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode with me, I will feel immensely proud of his formidable strength. Together, we will strive to inherit the true legacy of the owner of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Chapter 35 Fire Lotus Law Pattern. Outside the Fire and Water Dao, the three-eyed giant ape and Zhang Yao watched Yi-Chun, whose spirit was stirred by his success in passing the second trial of the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, in the path of fire of the Fire and Water Dao. Just as Yi-Chun had illuminated all 9 dim lines on the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, the giant Mirror Light Spirit Wall, which was over 10 meters tall and wide, saw those 9 lines suddenly start moving rapidly. In an instant, bright light covered the entire mirror wall. And in the moment that the light covered the entire mirror wall, the Mirror Light Spirit Wall burst with a loud boom, turning into faint firelight that scattered and disappeared, revealing once more the path forward in the path of fire. Finally, it's time to enter the last trial of this outer mansion. Yi-Chun gazed ahead, took a deep breath, and strode further into the corridor. Although the second trial did not yield as direct a reward as the first trial in the Fire Rune chart, where his True Qi realm broke through to the 6th level of True Qi, and he obtained 2 sets of superior mystical grade techniques, his gains were even more significant and precious than those from the first trial. The ambience of the wind thunder, the understanding of wind and thunder imparted by the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode within the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, was now deeply engraved in his mind. These were the ambience wielded by the incredibly powerful master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. With the insight into these 2 ambience, given time, Yi-Chun was absolutely certain that he would be able to master the 2 superior mystical grade techniques, Wind Thunder Sword skills and Wind Thunder movement, to perfection, and from these ambience, he would be able to extract the true Wind Thunder Sword ambience. By then, with 2 sets of superior mystical grade techniques and a new sword ambience even more fearsome than the Raging Storm sword ambience at his disposal, Yi-Chun's strength would elevate to an inconceivable degree. Increasing his current power by more than 10-fold was no empty talk. Yi-Chun calmed his mind, pushing all distracting thoughts aside. With significant gains from the first 2 trials, he was brimming with anticipation for the challenges and rewards that awaited in the final trial of the Outer Mansion. After another quarter of an hour's journey down the corridor, Yi-Chun suddenly noticed a faint figure sitting cross-legged on the ground at the end of the passage. This faint figure, dressed in a green Taoist robe and appearing thin and hale, was unmistakably the middle-aged scholar who had demonstrated techniques to Yi-Chun in the Mirror Light Spirit Wall. It was the silhouette of the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Outside the Fire and Water Dao, when the 3-eyed giant ape saw the faint figure that had suddenly appeared at the end of the corridor, disbelief filled all 3 of its divine eyes. How is this possible? The master's avatar appearing in the Mirror Light Spirit Wall to demonstrate techniques is already extremely rare, but for it to truly emerge within the Fire and Water Dao is completely unprecedented. Now, why would it appear during this third trial, the challenge of willpower? The 3-eyed giant ape knew its master had left behind an avatar in the Thousand Lotus Cave abode to guard 2 astonishingly precious secret treasures in the inner mansion. Over these past 300 years, those who undertook the trials of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode could only hear its master's voice. Even within the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, they would see merely a hazy figure practicing techniques, unable to discern the face clearly. For Yi Chun and Zhang Yao to witness the true appearance of the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode within the mirror light spirit wall was already extremely rare, let alone directly prompting the master's avatar left in the abode to manifest. This was an event the three-eyed giant ape had never encountered before. Could it be that the master's avatar has appeared to personally convey something important to this Yi Chun? The three-eyed giant ape speculated. In the path of fire, Yi Chun's heart skipped a beat when he suddenly saw the sitting figure at the end of the corridor ahead. Elder, are you the master of this abode? The one who just now imparted the technique's ambience to me? Yi Chun looked at the figure before him, which seemed both real and illusory, leaving him unsure whether it was a person or a manifestation of true qi. The faint figure sitting on the ground looked at Yi Chun and chuckled lightly. Indeed, I am the master of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, but I am merely an avatar that my true self left in the abode. My real body has long since left this place. Yi Chun, that is your name, isn't it? Just call me Chen Jizi. Indeed, I am called Yi Chun. Yi Chun replied to the figure claiming to be Chen Jizi with a respectful bow. Although he did not know what Chen Jizi meant by an avatar, considering the term, it must be a powerful technique available only at a high level of cultivation. Chen Jizi looked at Yi Chun and nodded slightly. It has been more than 300 years since I have truly appeared. At most, I have projected myself onto the mirror light spirit wall just to observe trial-goers like you. However, Yi Chun, it is you who have made me feel compelled to reveal myself. As Chen Jizi spoke, a rare smile appeared on his illusory face. At the first trial, your combat strength far exceeded your current realm, which surprised me. In the second trial, within a short span of 3 days, you understood the two ambiances that I demonstrated, which made me extremely delighted. Your aptitude and comprehension are the highest I've seen in over 300 years. Even higher than that little girl I saw 3 years ago. The little girl you saw 3 years ago? Could it be the one the senior three-eyed giant ape mentioned? The girl who passed the Path of Water 3 trials and is waiting to enter the inner mansion? Upon hearing Chen Jizi's praise of the girl, Yi Chun also became eager to meet her, the girl who had passed the 3 trials of the outer mansion 3 years before him. What Yi Chun didn't realize was that the girl he wanted to meet was Zhang Yao, who was currently watching him take the trials from outside the Fire and Water Dao. Originally, your performance in the first 2 trials was unparalleled, and even without this 3rd trial, I was thinking about letting you enter the Thousand Lotus Cave abode inner mansion. Unfortunately, the trials of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode are ones I personally set up over 300 years ago. Especially this 3rd trial of the outer mansion, it's pivotal to whether you can truly receive the final inheritance. So I can't just let you pass directly, Chen Jizi said with a sigh. Senior, don't mind it. The rewards you gave me in the first 2 trials are already plentiful. Let me pass this 3rd trial with my own strength, just like everyone else, Yi Chun said with a smile. Chen Jizi nodded. Not arrogant or impatient. Very good. Very good. Since it's so, I shall inform you of the method of the 3rd trial. The method of the 3rd trial? Hearing Chen Jizi say this, Yi Chun listened attentively. This 3rd trial is a test of willpower, aimed at assessing your fortitude. In this Path of Fire 3rd trial, you will undergo the terrifying ordeal of 10,000 flames burning body. You must successfully cultivate the Fire Lotus Law pattern on your forehead amidst the boundless pain to pass the trial. Cultivating the Fire Lotus Law pattern is extremely difficult. You must have an immensely strong will to withstand the pain of the burning flames, and at the same time, you need to cultivate secret techniques for nurturing the Fire Lotus Law pattern. If you fail to cultivate the Fire Lotus Law pattern in this 3rd trial, you will also fail the 3rd trial of the outer mansion. At that time, all your memories within the Thousand Lotus Cave abode will be burned away by the flames. At this point, Chen Jizi looked towards Yi Chun. However, Yi Chun, if other challengers fail this 3rd trial, their memories of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode will be burned, and I will send them away directly. But even if you fail, I will preserve your memories within the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Whether it is the mysterious grade techniques or the wind thunder ambience, all will be retained. That way, even if you have to leave the Thousand Lotus Cave abode midway, you will still make significant gains. But, Yi-chun, I hope more that you can pass this third trial of the outer mansion and truly cultivate the Fire Lotus Law pattern. Then, together with the little girl from 3 years ago, you may enter the inner mansion and obtain the real secret treasure that I have placed inside. Qian Jizi's caring and expectant words warmed Yi Chen's heart. Even if he didn't pass the third trial, Qian Jizi still chose to preserve the rewards of the first 2 trials for Yi Chun. Such recognition was extremely precious to him. Senior, I will certainly try my best to pass this third trial and not let down your expectations, Yi Chun said with the utmost seriousness. Seeing Yi Chen's earnest demeanor, Qian Jizi was even more gratified. Good, good. Then I will impart to you the secret technique for cultivating the Fire Lotus Law pattern. I hope you can once again rely on your own strength to pass this 10,000 flames burning body trial and cultivate the Fire Lotus Law pattern. As Qian Jizi's voice fell, the verses of the secret technique were transmitted directly into Yi Chen's mind. Yi Chun sat cross-legged on the ground, committing the content of these secret techniques to memory. Once all verses of the secret techniques were imprinted in his mind and Yi Chun had memorized them completely, Qian Jizi's booming voice came through. Thousand Lotus Cave Abode Outer Mansion Third Trial, 10,000 Flames Burning Body Ordeal, begins. Yi Chun, cultivate your own Fire Lotus Law pattern. Boom, boom, boom. In the midst of that resounding voice, countless flames burst forth from all directions within the Path of Fire corridor. In an instant, the entire corridor turned into a world of fire. Chapter 36, The Lotus Appears. Flames blazed fiercely, painting the world of fire a uniform crimson. And there, at the very center of this world of fire, was Yi Chun, with countless flames darting towards him, scorching his body. In an instant, Yi Chun was completely submerged by the omnipresent flames, and a pain that pierced his heart spread from his limbs and bones to the depths of his soul. Pain. Extreme pain. This pain, no amount of true qi could block. It did not burn the skin and muscle but pierced straight through the body, scorching Yi Chen's soul. Yi Chen's soul felt as if it were being torn apart by a colossal force. Yi Chen's spirit was like being viciously sliced by countless swords. This agony, worse than the pain of being burned physically, struck at the deepest part of the soul. Even as Yi Chun clenched his teeth, he couldn't help but let out muffled groans. Hang in there. To be scorched by myriad fires is to also have one's heart set aflame. Only through tempering one's will amidst this boundless pain and allowing the spirit to transform can new vitality be nurtured, the vitality belonging to the Fire Lotus Law pattern. The avatar of Qian Jizi sat cross-legged above the world of fire, quietly observing Yi Chun in the flames, softly speaking in his heart. Countless fires scorching the body is the final trial of the Thousand Lotus Cave Abode's outer mansion, and the most difficult one. Who knows how many who were strong in combat and keen in insight have fallen at this trial. Many at the moment of incineration by these myriad flames have had their souls severely burnt and fell into complete unconsciousness. Even more people have rolled, wailed, and screamed non-stop in these blazing fires, yet still could not withstand the pain and were ultimately eliminated. Only by overpowering this endless pain with willpower, only those with truly powerful will can succeed. Young man, I hope you can persevere. The three-eyed giant ape sighed deeply as it watched Yi Chun engulfed in the sea of flames. The third trial of the Path of Fire, myriad fires scorching the body. It's far more terrifying than the third trial of the Path of Water I experienced, which tested and refined the will. Jiang Yao's crystal-clear eyes were filled with worry as she watched Yi Chun in the midst of the flames. She had witnessed the trials of 19 individuals challenging the Path of Fire, and of those who had crossed the first 2 trials, 9 had been defeated by this third one. The tragic state of those 9 during the fire's incineration had left a deep impression on her. She had yet to see anyone withstand this trial of myriad fires scorching the body, and she wondered, could Yi Chun become the first person she had witnessed who would pass this third trial of the outer mansion? Jiang Yao did not know. Her eyes were filled with concern but also with anticipation. She hoped that this young man, who had demonstrated miraculous prowess in the previous trials, could withstand the pain and once again create a miracle. In the midst of the intense scrutiny from Chen Jizi, the three-eyed giant ape, and Jiang Yao, Yi Chun, who had just let out a muffled groan, lifted his head once more. Pain, the pain of the soul being scorched, no matter how unbearable, must be faced, must be endured. The soul, at its most fragile yet most powerful, if completely overpowered by this piercing agony of myriad fires, would be dominated by this pain. However, if the soul were to completely forget this piercing pain, then no agony could shake my innermost being. Willpower. Use willpower to overcome this piercing pain of myriad fires. All of my spirit. Focus on the cultivation. Focus on nurturing the fire lotus law pattern. In the midst of the fire's relentless incineration, Yi Chen's eyes burst forth with an indomitable light, and the secret of nurturing the fire lotus law pattern flowed endlessly in his mind. When all his attention was focused on the secret technique, the pain from the myriad fires seemed to lessen considerably. In the world of the fire sea, Yi Chun became quiet once again. In the boundless sea of flames, amidst endless pain, he slowly closed his eyes and quietly began to nurture the fire lotus law pattern. Good. He has quickly endured through the flames of the fire sea and entered a state of willpower. Chen Jizi's avatar above the sea of fire nodded slightly as he saw Yi Chun enter a meditative state, sitting peacefully. I hope that you will get through the true refinement of myriad fires that comes next. No sooner had his words fallen than countless burning flames in the world of fire surged like violent waters, and the entire world became even more brilliantly lit, with the power of the flames rising sharply once again. Even the air within the path of fire writhed and twisted under the abruptly intensified power of the flames. Ah! Yi Chun, who was sitting in meditation, was abruptly penetrated by the heightened power of the flames, and he tumbled to the ground in agony, crying out in pain. No, I must not be defeated. Fire Lotus Law Pattern. The first pattern. Struggling, Yi Chun got up, once again composed himself, and entered the state of cultivation. Boom! Countless flames once again scorched his body, the pain piercing straight into his heart, knocking him down yet again. But Yi Chun, with fierce determination, propped himself up with his hands. He got back up. Yi Chun, Yi Chun. Outside the fire and water Dao, Jiang Yao watched as Yi Chun was repeatedly brought down by the burning power of endless flames, and then got up over and over again, her eyes welling up with tears. Her thoughts were utterly pure. Although she hoped that Yi Chun would succeed and enter the inner mansion with her, she did not wish to see him suffer so greatly. The pain he endured was so intense that it caused her own heart to ache. Nevertheless, Yi Chun persisted, holding on time and time again. This persistence touched her deeply. Those who entered the third challenge before were knocked down by the pain of the burning flames at most 3 times before they completely fell. Yi Chun, on the other hand, has gotten up for the 18th time. Such perseverance was something Jiang Yao had never seen in anyone else, and it moved her even more than the miracles Yi Chun had previously created. Now is the crucial time for rebirth through nirvana. Either be vanquished by boundless pain, or rise from it, reborn anew. The three-eyed giant ape watched Yi Chun in the sea of fire, witnessing his repeated falls and rises, and its 3 divine eyes began to shine brighter and brighter. Finally, after the boiling force of the flames had knocked Yi Chun down 33 times, when he struggled and rose up once more, he did not fall again. He even sat back down cross-legged in the midst of the sea of flames, his posture remarkably stable. He's withstood it. Yi Chun has withstood it. Outside the fire and water Dao, seeing Yi Chun sitting cross-legged once again in the world of the sea of fire, unaffected, Jiang Yao burst into excited leaps. Earlier, each time she saw Yi Chun fall and get back up, her heart clenched with pain. She feared that Yi Chun would be grievously hurt in these struggles with the burning flames. She also feared feared that the 3 years she had waited would end up being in vain once again. Now, this miraculous young man had truly withstood it, really withstood the burning of the 1,000 fires. How could this not fill her with immense excitement? Seeing Jiang Yao's uncontainable excitement, the three-eyed giant ape sighed. It knew this girl had waited for 3 long years, only to be disappointed time after time. In those 3 years, 19 people entered the Path of Fire for the trial, and not one had successfully passed the test of the Path of Fire's 3 challenges. Not one could join her to brave the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Disappointment after disappointment. The downcast look on the girl's face each time she left the Thousand Lotus Cave abode moved even the three-eyed giant ape with a tinge of sorrow. Now, this young man in the Path of Fire was the closest to success, closest to fulfilling this girl's wish to enter the inner mansion. Succeed. Don't make this girl wait any longer. If we wait again, who knows how long it will be before someone else enters Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Succeed. The trials you have faced are already enough. The three-eyed giant ape awaited with hope in its heart. In the midst of the three-eyed giant ape's expectation and Jiang Yao's exhilaration, Yi Chun, who was sitting cross-legged in the world of the Sea of Fire, suddenly opened his eyes, his gaze becoming resolute and calm. The torment of the 1,000 fires, the repeated assaults of pain, the struggles and rises, seemed to renew Yi Chen's will as well. Incubate the Fire Lotus Law pattern. Within the world of the Sea of Flames, he roared, and the ubiquitous flames crazily converged towards the center of his forehead at his command. As the flames continued to congregate, a crimson lotus petal pattern slowly emerged on his brow. The Lotus Petal Law pattern. The first Lotus Petal Law pattern has appeared. Upon seeing the first Fire Lotus Law pattern emerge successfully on Yi Chen's forehead, the three-eyed giant ape cried out in surprise. The appearance of the first Lotus Petal Law pattern indicated that Yi Chun had truly started the process of incubating the Fire Lotus Law pattern. Keep it up, Yi Chun. Keep it up. You must succeed. You must incubate the entire Fire Lotus Law pattern. Jiang Yao clenched her fists tightly, her eyes fixed solely on Yi Chun. Before the delighted cry of the three-eyed giant ape could subside, and just after Jiang Yao caught her breath, a second lotus petal fire pattern appeared on Yi Chen's forehead. With his will refined, Yi Chun was like a sharpened divine sword, exuding endless willpower. The burning flames could no longer bring him pain. Instead, they accelerated his absorption of their immense power. Following that, the third, fourth, fifth, Yi Chen's speed of incubating the lotus petal law patterns increased rapidly until finally, amidst a dazzling blaze, 7 petals of a lotus fire pattern fully emerged on the center of his brow. This was unmistakably the sign of passing the third challenge, the Fire Lotus Law pattern. As the Fire Lotus Law pattern appeared on Yi Chen's brow, a pale blue lotus water pattern also emerged directly on Jiang Yao's brow, outside the fire and water Dao. Then, Qian Jizi's voice echoed throughout both the inside and outside of the fire and water Dao. Yi Chun has passed the third challenge. He will enter the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode together with Jiang Yao. Chapter 37 First Encounter. Yi Chun, you've passed the third trial. You will enter the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode with Jiang Yao. The voice of Qian Jizi echoed within and beyond the fire and water Dao for a long time. The third trial. I've finally broken through the third trial. Yi Chun clenched his fists tightly and stood up from his seated meditation. After tackling the fire rune chart against the fire-armored warriors and comprehending the wind-thunder ambience in the mirror light spirit wall, he had now also triumphed over the burn of 10,000 fires, successfully tempering his will and passing the trial. All 3 trials, the entire outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. He had completed them all and finally qualified to enter the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Jiang Yao, Elder Qian Jizi said that I will enter the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode with Jiang Yao. Jiang Yao. This name sounds so familiar. When he heard this name in Qian Jizi's words, Yi Chun felt as if he had heard it somewhere before. In a flash of thought, he remembered. Is it her? The senior sister Jiang Yao everyone was discussing back in the Qingyun sect's disciple square? Yichun still remembered hearing about the remarkable feats of senior sister Jiang Yao, how at 16 she had advanced beyond the 12th layer of true qi and entered the spirit sea realm, making her the top talent of all 36 sects in the eastern region of the Heavenly Wind Kingdom. Back then, he had even seen a portrait of Jiang Yao, a girl of such beauty that it stirred a ripple in his heart. At that time, Yichun thought that perhaps one day, once he became strong, he'd be able to meet senior sister Jiang Yao herself in person. Yet now, inside the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, he had unexpectedly heard her name. Was she the one who would be navigating the inner mansion with him? Is it really that senior sister Jiang Yao? Thinking of the beautiful girl in the portrait, and those enchanting, clear eyes, Yichun couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Let's go. Yichun, come with me to the inner mansion and meet Jiang Yao. At that moment, in the corridor, the projected image of Chen Jizi appeared in front of Yichun. With a wave of his hand, the obstruction at the end of the corridor shattered, and a brilliant light flooded in from ahead. Chen Jizi strode forward, and Yichun took a deep breath, following closely behind, as they both stepped out of the fire and water Dao corridor. Ape Elder, I can finally enter the inner mansion. I can finally enter the inner mansion. Outside the fire and water Dao, in the outer mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, as Jiang Yao heard Chen Jizi's lingering voice, her snow-white face blossomed like a pear flower, her waterfall-like hair gently swaying. Her entire being became more vibrant, filled with boundless excitement and joy. After 3 years of waiting and repeated disappointments, she hadn't found a companion to enter the inner mansion with, unable to access the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. Now, this youth, Yichun, had finally realized this wish, and would enter the inner mansion with her. She could finally see what the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode was really like. Yichun, thank you, Jiang Yao murmured with her rosy lips. Witnessing the girl's excitable bounce, the three-eyed giant ape's enormous face also showed a smile. Let's go and meet that Yichun. The inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode is very different from the outer mansion. Now that I think about it, it has been over 20 years since I last entered the inner mansion. As the three-eyed giant ape spoke, on one side of the outer mansion's wall, a massive passageway thunderously opened up. This passageway was the transport route from the outer mansion to the inner mansion. Let's go, Ape Elder. Let's go. The three-eyed giant ape and Jiang Yao, one after the other, flew into the passageway in the wall. Meanwhile, as Yichun passed the 3 trials of the outer mansion and was heading to the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode with Chen Jizi to meet Jiang Yao and explore the even more mysterious realm, over 1,000 miles away from where the Thousand Lotus Cave abode stood, on a mountain peak of Qingyun sect's outer region, a tall and beautiful girl was slightly furrowing her brows with worry showing in her eyes. Yichun, he's been missing for over 10 days now, and we have no idea what's become of him. There are rumors that he killed Zhou Hai of the 7th layer of true qi. Could he really have been killed by Yichun? If Yichun had seen this tall girl, he would certainly have recognized her as none other than Lin Jing, the Qingyun sect outer disciple who had teamed up with him to enter 10,000 Beasts Mountain. That Zhou Hai's father, Zhou Yuntian, is a mid-stage spirit sea realm expert, and is also an elder of the 7th grade sect, Heavenly Net sect, a man even our leader of Qingyun sect must show respect for. Now that Zhou Yuntian has completely lost his mind, he's been frantically searching everywhere for Yichun. All of us who teamed up with Yichun to enter the mountain have been personally interrogated by him. If it weren't for my father pleading for us, I'm afraid we would all have died at Zhou Yuntian's hands. Thinking back to Zhou Yuntian's furious appearance, Lin Jing's heart trembled. What should Yichun do? Zhou Yuntian is looking for him. How can he possibly escape? Whenever Lin Jing thought of the young man who hunted the silver-striped snake demon with her, the same one along with the obsession of Zhou Hai, her eyes filled with worry. Heavenly Net sect, hundreds of miles away from Qingyun sect. At the moment, inside the cave abode of Elder Zhou Yuntian of the Heavenly Net sect, he was extremely furious. His entire abode was oppressed by a powerful aura of true qi, making it hard for anyone to breathe. Useless fools. All of you are useless. A whole living man, and you all can't find him. Can he possibly fly to the sky or something? At this moment, in the cave abode, a large number of heavenly net sect disciples were kneeling, each of them all surpassing the 9th layer of true chi. However, they did not dare to breathe too heavily, fearful of angering Elder Zhou and being killed by him in a fit of rage. Facing the furious Spirit Sea realm expert, their realms of the 9th or 10th layer of true chi stood no chance at all. Search, even if you must turn 10,000 beasts mountain upside down. Find that Yi Chun, and keep a close watch on Qingyun's sect as well. If he shows up there, seize him immediately for me. Zhou Yuntian's eyes were bloodshot as he stared outside the cave abode, gritting his teeth. Yi Chun, no matter where you flee, I will capture you and tear you to pieces, to comfort my son high in the spirit of heaven. This is the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode? The winds outside 10,000 Beasts Mountain surged, but Yi Chun paid them no mind. At the moment, following Qian Jizi, he had come to a world filled with fresh breeze and the fragrance of flowers, a chattering of birds. He had assumed the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode would be similar to the outer mansion, a sealed hall, but unexpectedly, this place turned out to be a different kind of beautiful world. Looking into the distance, he could see a vast expanse of beautiful green lotus leaves swaying in a lake. Further away, there even stood a towering mountain, rising into the clouds. As Yi Chun was taking in the sights of the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode, suddenly there came the sound of flying from behind. He turned around as though sensing something and caught sight of a girl in a light blue robe flying towards him, near the three-eyed giant ape. Her waterfall-like black hair floated behind her, and her pure, flawless skin, delicate face, pert nose, and rosy lips all radiated breathtaking beauty. There were also her clear, starry eyes gleaming brightly, with a slight smile as she looked at Yi Chun. When he saw those eyes, Yi Chun's heart exploded with a bang, overwhelmed by an indescribable sensation that swept through his entire body. Zhang Yao. She truly is the sister Zhang Yao whose portrait I have seen. Chapter 38 Flying Sword Heritage. Yi Chun's mind was in turmoil when Zhang Yao and the three-eyed giant ape had already landed upon the ground of the inner mansion. No sooner had the three-eyed giant ape touched down than it excitedly ran toward the seated projection of Qian Jizi, all the while calling out loudly, "Master! Master!" Meanwhile, Zhang Yao, with a delicate lotus-like gait, walked toward Yi Chun. As the girl moved, her figure was lithe, and her waterfall-like hair gently swayed behind her, exuding an indescribable charm. Yi Chun, I've finally seen you. Zhang Yao arrived in front of Yi Chun, lifted her lovely head slightly, and with clear eyes looking at Yi Chun, she said with a light laugh, "Senior sister Zhang Yao. She knows me?" Hearing the girl's words and looking at the beautiful girl who had walked up to him, Yi Chun was slightly taken aback. "I saw your 3 trials at the outer mansion earlier." Zhang Yao noticed Yi Chun's confusion, her attractive large eyes curving into a smile, dimples emerging as she spoke. "Your performance in the 3 trials was truly impressive. You even managed to draw out Senior Qian Jizi. So she was in the outer mansion before." Yi Chun finally understood why the senior sister Zhang Yao, whom he had never met, was so familiar with him. Looking at her exquisite face and those clear eyes that twinkled with a gentle smile, Yi Chun's heart also calmed down. He had thought this senior sister Zhang Yao, whose cultivation had reached the Spirit Sea realm, would be aloof and proud, but to his surprise, she was as approachable and charming as the girl next door. "Senior sister Zhang Yao, I've long admired your renown," Yi Chun said, looking into Zhang Yao's eyes and smiling too. Being with this beautiful girl, he felt extremely relaxed. The feeling was really nice. "Yi Chun, just call me Zhang Yao. We're going to be companions from now on, venturing together through the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode." Zhang Yao's eyes sparkled, and her whole being seemed to leap with excitement as she looked at the beautiful scenery of the inner mansion. "Yes, we're going to venture through the inner mansion, wondering what the 3 trials inside will be like." Yi Chun looked out toward the rippling lake in the distance, and the towering mountains piercing the clouds, feeling some anticipation for the upcoming trials. We don't know yet. Zhang Yao shook her lovely head lightly, equally eager with anticipation. The two stood side by side, surveying the inner mansion of the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. It seems you two have gotten to know each other. At this moment, Qian Jizi, accompanied by the three-eyed giant ape, walked over. He looked at Yichan and Zhang Yao standing shoulder to shoulder and nodded with a smile. Senior Qian Jizi. Yichan and Zhang Yao both bowed respectfully to Qian Jizi. All right, there's no need for such formality. Qian Jizi waved his hand to stop their respectful salutes. Now that you've arrived at the inner mansion, let me inform you both about the trials here. Hearing Qian Jizi's words, Yichan and Zhang Yao perked up and listened attentively. The trials of the inner mansion concerned their upcoming tests, and naturally they wanted to know as much as possible. Qian Jizi said, the three trials of the fire and water Dao in the outer mansion, be it the path of fire that you, Yichan, went through or the path of water that Zhang Yao went through 3 years ago, all test your combat strength, understanding, and willpower. Ultimately, you both passed the trials successfully and have come to the inner mansion together. Your performances are also the best pair that Thousand Lotus Cave abode has seen in its over 300 years of history. Hearing Qian Jizi's praise, Yichan and Zhang Yao exchanged a glance, excitement apparent in their eyes. Thank you for the compliment, Senior. However, even if you performed well within the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode, you must still strive to overcome the 3 trials of this inner mansion, and strive to obtain the true treasure that I've placed here. Qian Jizi's voice became serious. The real treasure I've placed in the inner mansion is a set of flying sword heritage. This flying sword heritage, over the past 300 years, nobody has been able to successfully obtain it. Flying sword heritage? Hearing that the treasure was the flying sword heritage, both Yichan and Zhang Yao were taken aback. Yichan had never heard of what the flying sword heritage was, and though Zhang Yao was from the Taishan sect and had reached the Spirit Sea realm, she too had not heard this term and was somewhat puzzled. Seeing their expressions, Qian Jizi extended his hand, and a beam of silver light shot straight out from his forehead, falling into the palm of his hand. Yichan and Zhang Yao looked towards Qian Jizi's palm and were startled to see a silver sword an inch long, throbbing slowly in his palm. This inch-long silver sword seemed to have life of its own. The next moment, Qian Jizi's gaze shifted to the distance, and in an instant, the inch-long sword in his palm flew towards the distance. As it flew, the inch-long sword expanded with the wind, turning into a huge silver sword soaring through the skies of the entire inner mansion. Only after circling around the skies of the inner mansion did the silver giant sword fly back, turning back into the inch-long sword, and flew into Qian Jizi's forehead, disappearing from sight. A sword that could enter the human body, that could grow larger or smaller as it circled around the heavens and the earth. Was this a flying sword? Watching the show of skill that Qian Jizi had just revealed, both Yichan and Zhang Yao became excited. They could sense the miraculousness of this flying sword. I am but a shadow split from my true body left within the Thousand Lotus Cave abode, only capable of displaying the transformations of the flying sword, rather than its true power. In time, you will come to understand just how precious this flying sword heritage is. The flying sword is nurtured in the Flying Sword Palace within the forehead, appearing and disappearing in a blink of an eye. It can strike with its sword in an instant, catching one's enemies off guard, and can continuously cultivate within the Sword Palace acupoint, constantly enhancing the quality of the flying sword. Once cultivated to a great mystical ability, it can even fly thousands of miles on its own to take the enemy's head. This is the flying sword, nurtured within the forehead, unpredictable, capable of taking heads from 1,000 miles away. Qian Jizi's words gave Yichan and Zhang Yao a direct understanding of the power of the flying sword. Yichan, Zhang Yao. Qian Jizi looked at the two of them. In the 3rd trial of the outer mansion earlier, you successfully nurtured the Fire Lotus Law pattern and Water Lotus Law pattern, which was considered as passing the test. Do you know why? Yichan and Zhang Yao both shook their heads. Those fire lotus law patterns and water lotus law patterns were the marks left at the center of your brows. After entering the inner mansion, you will undergo the 3 trials of the inner mansion in preparation for obtaining the flying sword heritage. The first trial will take place in the lotus sword pool, where your fire lotus law pattern and water lotus law pattern will directly absorb sword chi spirit liquid, eventually creating the sword palace acupoint at the center of your forehead, where the flying sword can be nurtured. The second trial requires you to ascend 10,000 Swords Mountain, to constantly forge and expand your sword palace during the climb, in preparation for admitting the flying sword. And the third trial will take you directly to the site of the flying sword heritage, where if you manage to have the set of flying swords I left at the pinnacle of 10,000 Swords Mountain acknowledge you as their master, and they fly into the flying sword palace created between your brows, you will have passed the trial successfully. That set of flying sword heritage will then belong to you. So that's how it is. Hearing Qian Jizi's explanation, Yi Chun suddenly understood. No wonder he had to nurture the fire lotus law pattern in his brow during the third trial of the outer mansion. It turned out, this was in preparation for creating the flying sword palace. The flying sword palace is a kind of acupoint related to nurturing and storing flying swords, similar to how the vital energy storage acupoints store vital energy. Only by creating the flying sword palace would one be able to incorporate that immensely powerful flying sword into one's body. And all 3 trials of the 1,000 Lotus Cave Abode's inner mansion were designed to prepare for creating the sword palace and admitting the flying sword. Standing beside Yi Chun, Zhang Yao also came to understand, and with shining eyes, she asked Qian Jizi, Senior Qian Jizi, when do the trials of this inner mansion begin? Qian Jizi is a rumored heavenly saint realm powerhouse. The flying sword heritage he left behind was unimaginably precious. Zhang Yao could hardly wait to see what this flying sword heritage was all about. Chapter 39 Sword Pool Lotus. The first 2 trials of the inner mansion, the Lotus Sword Pool, and the 10,000 Swords Mountain, will have dedicated hosts. Soon the 3-eyed giant ape will take you to meet it, and it will instruct you on how to partake in the tests. And I will be waiting for you at the peak of 10,000 Swords Mountain at the 3rd trial. I hope that I will be there when you step onto the summit. At that time, I will tell you about the origins and the invaluable nature of the flying sword heritage I left behind. Qian Jizi looked at Zhang Yao and Yi Chun with hope. Yi Chun, Zhang Yao. Senior. Yi Chun and Zhang Yao both looked up at Qian Jizi. Qian Jizi nodded. My astral projection stayed here to wait for the truly deserving recipient of the flying sword heritage. I've been waiting for over 300 years without finding the right person. I hope that you two will succeed this time. Yi Chun and Zhang Yao exchanged glances, both their eyes filled with an inexplicable determination. No matter what, they were going to venture through the 3 trials of the inner mansion together and strive for the flying sword heritage. Senior, rest assured, we will definitely strive to reach the peak of 10,000 Swords Mountain to see you again, Yi Chun said. Yes, Yi Chun and I will not easily give up, Zhang Yao stated firmly. Good, Qian Jizi nodded. He turned toward the 3-eyed giant ape. Giant ape, lead them to the Lotus Sword Pool. Yes, master, the 3-eyed giant ape replied respectfully. Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, I will be waiting to see you again at the peak of 10,000 Swords Mountain. As Qian Jizi's voice echoed, he vanished with a sweep of his large sleeve. Watching Qian Jizi's astral projection disappear, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao both felt a sense of loss from parting. Whether it was Qian Jizi revealing his true form to teach them martial skills at the Mirror Light Spirit Wall, or just now informing them about the trials in the inner mansion, they could both perceive Qian Jizi's expectations for them. Yi Chun, let's both do our best, Zhang Yao said with a slight lift of her head, her clear eyes gazing at Yi Chun, cheering him on. Yes, let's work hard together. Yi Chun looked at the girl's pale face and nodded firmly. The 3-eyed giant ape looked toward the towering mountains in the far distance of the inner mansion, heaving a deep sigh. The master still refuses to see that old demon bird. He is afraid of remembering Senior Lianyu. Those paired flying swords at the peak of 10,000 Swords Mountain are the astonishing treasures that the Master and Senior Lien Yu obtained from the Sea God Palace during their journey to the Sea of Chaos, capable of moving even the mightiest in the heavenly Saint Realm. Unfortunately, Senior Lien Yu. At this thought, all three eyes of the three-eyed giant ape dampened slightly. What's wrong, Senior Ape? Jiang Yao noticed the giant ape's unusual expression and asked with concern. Yi Chun turned to look at the giant ape as well and saw the tears brimming in its divine eyes. It's nothing. The three-eyed giant ape took a deep breath and smiled at Jiang Yao and Yi Chun. Let's go. I'll take you to the Lotus Sword Pool. There's an old demon bird waiting for you there. An old demon bird? Yi Chun and Jiang Yao were both slightly startled. So it turns out, that's the Lotus Sword Pool. Yi Chun and Jiang Yao stood on the shoulders of the three-eyed giant ape, and as it soared forth, they rapidly approached the lake with the endless ripples of verdant lotus leaves that they had seen from afar. A tease time later, they arrived beside the lake. Gazing at the vast lake stretching thousands of feet in every direction and inhaling the light fragrance of the green lotus leaves, Yi Chun and Jiang Yao felt their minds clear and refreshed. The lake and lotus leaves gave them an extraordinary feeling. Looking over the lake known as Lotus Sword Pool, they saw many lotus leaves but couldn't spot a single lotus flower. Just as they found it odd, a somewhat harsh voice came from the middle of the lake. 28 years and only now has someone passed the 3 trials of the outer mansion? Quite disappointing, isn't it? Then, countless lotus leaves rustled as beams of light emerged above them, followed by the appearance of an extraordinarily divine ice-blue feathered bird. This gigantic ice-blue bird, with its wings spread wide, easily over 200 yards long, demanded attention. Even more striking was its deep blue, watery plumage, each feather shimmering enchantingly, full of grace and beauty. A formidable pressure emanated from within it. Even from a great distance, Yi Chun and Jiang Yao's expressions changed significantly. Both of them could feel that this giant ice-blue feathered bird could probably kill them with a single flap of its wings. Is this the master of the first 2 challenges in the inner mansion? Is this the old demon bird that Ape mentioned earlier? But this giant ice-blue feathered bird, where is it old? It's clearly incredibly mystical. Yi Chun and Jiang Yao were both stunned by the mysterious beauty of the giant feathered bird. At this moment, the giant ice-blue feathered bird's divine eyes also turned to look at Yi Chun and Jiang Yao. Are they such a young pair? One in the spirit sea realm, the other in the true chi realm. As the ice-blue feathered bird spoke with a human voice, it flapped its wings and flew towards the edge of the lake. With every beat of its wings, the waters of the entire lake churned violently, and a hurricane formed right away, dragging up huge waves that followed the flying giant bird and assaulted Yi Chun and Jiang Yao. Seeing this, Jiang Yao and Yi Chun's expressions changed, and almost instinctively, they each grabbed the other's clothes and retreated explosively backwards. All right, old demon bird. These are a pair of youngsters highly valued by the master. Perhaps they really might obtain the flying sword heritage. The three-eyed giant ape roared, and the hurricane boom crashed into the lake, and the storm finally settled down. Your master is not my master, the ice-blue feathered bird huffed coldly. However, it also retracted its aura and landed next to the lake. Its divine eyes once again looked at Yi Chun and Jiang Yao. If Qian Jizi sees value in you, it seems you two really have some skills. What? Isn't this feathered bird a spirit beast of Qian Jizi? Hearing the ice-blue feathered bird's tone lacking any bit of respect towards Qian Jizi, Yi Chun and Jiang Yao were somewhat puzzled. After all, this was the Thousand Lotus Cave abode where Qian Jizi, as the owner, should be the most authoritative. The pair were a bit confused. Since you've made it here, I will not make things difficult for you, the ice-blue feathered bird continued to speak. However, whether or not you pass the challenge of the inner mansion depends on your own abilities. Before you, a total of 18 pairs, 36 people, have entered the inner mansion, but all 36 of them were eliminated in the first 2 challenges. I do not hope that you will be the 19th pair to be eliminated. The ice-blue feathered bird looked at Yi-chan and Jiang Yao with its cold eyes and spoke chillingly. Rest assured, Senior, Jiang Yao and I will strive to pass the test, Yi-chan said to the ice-blue feathered bird. Please inform us about the first challenge. Though astonished by the giant feathered bird with wings spanning over 200 zhang, Yi-chan felt no fear. For one thing, this was a testing ground in the Thousand Lotus Cave abode. For another, when he obtained the Starlight Tower in the void space beneath the Antarctic glacier, he had seen myriad giant beasts that stretched for 10,000 meters, making this giant feathered bird seem quite small in comparison. Seeing that Yi-chen's eyes were clear and showed no trace of fear while conversing, the ice-blue feathered bird was slightly taken aback. It then glanced at Jiang Yao again. This little girl, reaching Spirit Sea Realm at the sclerotic age of 17. It's no wonder Qian Jizi values you. It's surprising that a true Qi Realm youngster like you would also be valued by Qian Jizi. But now it seems you do have some courage, it commented. With that being the case, prepare yourselves to start the first trial, opening the Sword Palace Acupoint, said the giant feathered bird before gesturing towards the lake with a flap of its wing. This lake is called Lotus Sword Pool. When the lotus blooms, the water in the pool will transform into Sword Qi Spirit Liquid. Then, you shall enter the sword pool and draw the Sword Qi Spirit Liquid to open the Sword Palace Acupoint. The first challenge will only grant you 3 days. If you cannot open the Sword Palace Acupoint within 3 days, it means you have no affinity with the sword, and you will be directly eliminated. Moreover, within the 3 days, in addition to opening the Sword Palace Acupoint, you must also strive to absorb more Sword Qi Spirit Liquid into the acupoint. The more spirit liquid you absorb, the larger the opened acupoint will be, and the higher the quality of the nurtured flying swords will naturally be. If the Sword Palace Acupoint you open is too small, you will also be eliminated. Now, remember the secret technique for opening the Sword Palace Acupoint and prepare to start the first trial. After the giant feathered bird finished speaking, 2 jade slips shot toward Yi-chan and Jiang Yao. Upon receiving them, they saw that the jade slips recorded the secret technique to turn the Brow's Meridian Seal into the Sword Palace Acupoint. Clenching the jade slips in their hands, they quickly committed them to memory. After communicating the secret technique to Yi-chan and Jiang Yao, the giant feathered bird gave another flap of its wings toward the lake. In mid-air above the lake, a huge lotus bud directly rose up. This lotus bud was 100 meters in size, and once it appeared in the air, it began to rotate smoothly. With the rotation, the petals of the bud slowly parted, and in a moment, a lotus flower over 300 meters in size floated above the surface of the lake. As the lotus flower bloomed completely, endless light cascaded from its petals, falling into the water below. The once placid lake suddenly radiated endless sword gleams, and strands of sword energy flowed ceaselessly within, instantly turning the entire blue lake into a sea of silver white. The Sword Qi Spirit Liquid has formed. Go in and absorb it. Whether or not you can open the Sword Palace Acupoint within 3 days depends on your fate, the giant feathered bird said to Yi-chan and Jiang Yao. Let's go, Jiang Yao. Yi-chan, let's go. Yi-chan and Jiang Yao exchanged a glance, and then, with a flicker, they both flew into the waters of the sword pool. Chapter 40, The Twin Prides. Once they plunged into the sword pool lake, the silvery sword Qi Spirit Liquid surged toward Yi-chan and Jiang Yao. In an instant, their figures were wrapped layer by layer in the sword Qi Spirit Liquid. What a comfortable feeling! Yi-chan sat crossed-legged in the midst of the lake's waters, the fire lotus law pattern on his forehead faintly emerging. Strands of sword qi slowly flowed toward his law pattern and gradually penetrated inside, spreading a slight coolness throughout Yi-chen's limbs and bones. This sensation was like when he cultivated true qi, with his body enveloped by the true qi of heaven and earth. Extremely comfortable. This feeling is quite nice. 5 or 6 meters away on the opposite side, Jiang Yao, who sat facing Yi-chan, also revealed a shallow smile on her delicate little face. Likewise, a faint blue lotus water pattern slowly appeared on her forehead. This faint blue water lotus law pattern was what she had nurtured after entering the path of water during the third trial in the Thousand Lotus Cave abode's outer mansion 3 years ago. Jiang Yao's water lotus law pattern, much like Yi Chen's fire lotus law pattern, was also a preparation for opening the Sword Palace. The first trial of the inner mansion of Thousand Lotus Cave abode, the Lotus Sword Pool, was not as perilous as imagined. On the contrary, it was extremely suitable for the two of them to cultivate. By the edge of the Lotus Sword Pool, the three-eyed giant ape and the huge feathered bird watched the two hazy figures enveloped in sword chi within the lake. I wonder how long Yi Chen and Jiang Yao will take to open up the Sword Palace acupoint. The three-eyed giant ape became somewhat nervous. Although Yi Chen and Jiang Yao had performed exceedingly well in the outer mansion, being regarded as the best pair of trial-takers since the founding of Thousand Lotus Cave abode over 300 years ago, with immense combat strength, comprehension, and willpower, the three trials of this inner mansion were all related to the inheritance of flying swords. If they were not suitable for flying sword cultivation, even with their excellence, they would have no connection to the ultimate flying sword inheritance. I hope they can create the same miracles in the inner mansion as they did in the outer mansion. The three-eyed giant ape was both worried and hopeful. Hearing the three-eyed giant ape's words, the huge feathered bird spoke indifferently. When the trial takers enter the Lotus Sword Pool, the first day is generally about adapting to the sword chi spirit liquid within the pool. If they can open up the Sword Palace by the second day, that would be quite good. These two little fellas, even if you think highly of them, you'll have to wait. It won't happen that quickly. Before its words had finished, a sudden loud rumble came from within the lotuses of the sword pool. The noise was like raging waves and surging tides, abruptly cutting off the voice of the huge feathered bird. What's going on? The three-eyed giant ape and the huge feathered bird both looked toward the sword pool, and what they saw next was incredible. Within the lake, where the sword chi spirit liquid had been calm, it suddenly began to churn violently as if ignited. Amidst the churning, the vast sword chi spirit liquid surged towards the figure sitting in the lake like a giant serpent or godlike dragon. That figure was none other than Yi Chen. Former trial takers who entered the sword pool to absorb sword chi spirit liquid needed a day to draw it out, and even on the second day, they would only attract it in thin strands. Never before had anyone caused such a disturbance in the waters of the sword pool in such a short time. Never before had anyone attracted such an enormous amount of sword chi spirit liquid all at once. Watching the spirit liquid furiously rushing toward Yi Chen's brow, the three-eyed giant ape revealed an ecstatic expression in an instant, and the huge feathered bird was also stunned, showing an incredulous look. While the two mystical creatures were still in shock, not long after Yi Chen had attracted the sword chi spirit liquid, a major disturbance also occurred where Jiang Yao sat. Around the girl's waterfall-like hair and her delicate body, countless strands of sword chi erupted with a heaven-piercing light. Within the radiance, another vast and inexhaustible column of sword chi spirit liquid, in no way inferior to Yi Chen's, furiously surged towards the water lotus law pattern at the center of Jiang Yao's brow. Jiang Yao had, just like Yi Chen, attracted a tremendous amount of sword chi spirit liquid in a short period. When one person created a miracle, it was enough to astonish the three-eyed giant ape and the huge feathered bird. But the scene of two people creating miracles simultaneously was so astounding that the mystical creatures could hardly believe their own eyes. How could this be? How could this be? The previously indifferent and even somewhat aloof huge feathered bird now swept away its former composure, even exclaiming in shock and disbelief, "What a surprise! A great surprise! Who could have thought that Yi Chen and Jiang Yao had such an affinity with flying swords, to enter the state of opening the Sword Palace so smoothly? Only in the case of the former master and the predecessor Lien you have I seen such a miracle." As it spoke, the three-eyed giant ape looked toward Yi Chen and Jiang Yao, sitting in the sword pool, and suddenly stopped mid-sentence. The youth in the sword pool, with a fair and handsome face, wore a steadfast expression, while the girl in the sword pool, her hair fluttering, was like a fairy. What a pair of heaven's prides! What a perfect match! Ming Kei, looking at the two of them, doesn't it remind you of our two masters cultivating in the heavenly pond all those years ago? the giant three-eyed ape whispered to the immense feathered bird beside it. Master! At this word, the massive body of the feathered bird trembled greatly, and its eyes softened. It remembered the woman it had accompanied through the 4 seas and the 8 wastes. Master, my master! Its tender eyes now looked towards Zhang Yao and Yi Chun in the pool. It really does look alike. Our master had acquired the twin swords with Senior 1000 mechanisms in the Sea of Chaos back then, but couldn't enjoy the fortune. Could it be that fate has already destined it? And the twin swords are finally about to find their rightful masters. The immense feathered bird and the giant three-eyed ape both thought of that event from over 300 years ago and fell silent. So, this is the Sword Palace. Within the sword pool, Yi Chen's consciousness surveyed an acupoint at the center of his forehead, which was precisely located where the Fire Lotus Law pattern had been before. By this time, the Fire Lotus Law pattern had disappeared, replaced by a newly unblocked spatial acupoint. As if creating the heavens and earth, another spatial world was born within Yi Chen's body. The Sword Palace acupoint space. Just as when he had entered the true Qi realm and cultivated the Qi-Si acupoint, the Sword Qi spiritual liquid surged crazily into the Sword Palace acupoint, and the inner space of the Sword Palace acupoint expanded rapidly. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. The Sword Palace world kept expanding as myriad streams of Sword Qi spiritual liquid wildly flew into it, just like true Qi entering the Qi-Si. Elsewhere, Zhang Yao had also entered the grand opening of her Sword Palace acupoint. Having stepped into the true Qi realm, she was well acquainted with the creation of internal acupoint spaces. After entering the Spirit Sea realm and turning true Qi into liquid, she was extremely familiar with this world of Qi-Si, and now, as she entered the creation of the Sword Palace world, she crazily absorbed Sword Qi spiritual liquid, and her Sword Palace world continuously grew and stretched. With Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's frenetic absorption, the vast sword pool lake's water level even dropped significantly, and it was still falling. To absorb so much Sword Qi spiritual liquid, this pair of young male and female, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, they are absorbing more Sword Qi spiritual liquid than all those who entered the inner mansion before them combined. The more Sword Qi spiritual liquid absorbed, the larger the Sword Palace that will be opened. Given the situation, it's likely that the Sword Palace world of the two of them will be able to support the nurturing of spiritual artifact grade flying swords. No, not just spiritual artifact grade. Their rate of Sword Qi spiritual liquid absorption has not slowed down at all. If this continues, treasure instrument grade, or even sacred instrument grade weapons could be nurtured. The twin flying swords at the peak of 10,000 swords are of sacred instrument grade. If their Sword Palace world can be opened up to the sacred instrument grade level, then there will be no issues in nurturing those twin flying swords when the time comes. A day later, under the unwavering watch of the giant three-eyed ape and the immense feathered bird, the surface of the sword pool lake dropped by 1/3. Yet Yi Chun and Zhang Yao didn't stop their progress in opening up the Sword Palace acupoint. 2 days later, the entire sword pool lake was almost depleted when the immense feathered bird had to call forth 7 giant snow-white lotus flowers again. Streams of spiritual liquid poured out from the lotus flowers, causing the water level in the sword pool lake to rise once more. 3 days later, just before the final moments of absorbing Sword Qi spirit liquid at this first challenge arrived, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao in the sword pool opened their eyes in succession. Between their brows, it seemed as if endless Sword Qi radiance shone forth, and their presences underwent a drastic transformation. As the light converged, everything returned to normal. Yet, 2 vast worlds were now securely fixed between their brows. The Sword Palace world, completed. Yi Chun and Zhang Yao opened their eyes to find themselves looking at each other. They exchanged smiles and soared up from the sword pool.